At this time, I'm going to call to order the meeting of October 19th, 2020. City Manager, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Ready, salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Resendez,
Present.
Vice Mayor Spencer,
Present.
Mayor Velasquez,
Here.
Councilmember Lenore,
Present.
City Manager Miller,
Present.
City Attorney Epperson,
Present.
Interim Police Chief Reynoso.
Present.
The agenda for the City of Hollister City Council regular meeting of October 19, 2020 was posted on the bulletin board on October 14, 2020 at 1:10 p.m. per Government Code Section 54954.2.
Thank you. We're going to move to the consent agenda. Are there any items council would like to pull?
Not me.
Do we have any from the public?
There are no speakers.
Is there a motion?
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. We will now move to public input. This is the time for anyone in the audience to speak on any item not on the agenda and within the subject matter jurisdiction of the council. Speaker cards are available in the lobby and are to be completed and given to the city clerk before speaking. When the city clerk calls your name, please come to the podium, state your name and city for the record, and speak to the city council. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes with a maximum of 30 minutes per subject. Please note that state law prohibits the city council from discussing or taking action on any item not on the agenda. Do we have any speakers?
Yes, the first speaker is Mia Casey. We're going to unmute you, Mia, so you can speak.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great. As a retired person, I got involved in local politics because I care and I want to give back to my community. Never in my wildest dreams did I believe my efforts would earn me the personal attacks and vitriol I've experienced, particularly from elected officials. I've spoken before this council many times and have been open about the activities of our group, San Benito Citizens for a Brighter Future. We advocate on important local issues and in particular support commercial and economic growth. Our grassroots group recently formed as a 501c4 nonprofit and have done some campaigning in support of Measure N. A former member of our group, Frank Berrigan, decided to work in a campaign against Measure N. And in an underhanded attempt to discredit us, he has been posting and mischaracterizing screenshots of old private messages, not just conversations about how to support projects and dispel misinformation, but also private discussions around politics in an effort to harass, embarrass, and humiliate his former colleagues. Now 2 members of this council have joined in with Frank in a concerted attack. Mr. Mayor, you've repeatedly claimed our group is not a developer, but that I'm paid by and have organized the group on behalf of the developer for Strada Verde. This is a ridiculous and false claim, particularly given our group was organized months ago, before Measure N even existed. Councilmember Resendez, you've taken things even further. You've repeatedly attacked and bullied me online, implying I'm being paid, stalking my husband to find out where he works and for how long, and then attempting to mischaracterize his job. You also accused our group of hiding or funneling campaign donations, and the proof you offered were Frank Berrigan's old screenshots from last spring, which have nothing to do with the Measure N campaign. You've even posted a screenshot that had been doctored in Photoshop, leaving out some content in order to twist the message. Your behavior is that of schoolyard bullies, and it seems particularly hypocritical, Mr. Mayor, given you participated in an anti-bullying campaign over the weekend. I've asked you both to stop the slander and the personal attacks, but you have continued. I'm hereby requesting the city attorney to advise these council members of what slander and defamation of character is, and also how they expose the city to liability when in their ministerial capacity on social media, the mayor and council member misuse their titles and the weight of their elected office to attack citizens. I will not be silenced by their efforts, and I'm no longer asking. I demand these officials cease and desist from their slanderous and defamatory statements. In fact, in a just world, they should be censured for their outrageous conduct. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, this is Jason Epperson. May I interrupt for a moment? Mr. Mayor?
All right, go ahead.
Thank you. I'd just like to remind members of the public that since we're not allowed to campaign during these meetings, if you have a logo or some representation of yourself on the Zoom meeting, we'd ask that either you appear live by live video or perhaps use a different image other than one that explicitly represents a position on some issue pending in this election. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Next speaker is Susan Logue. Susan, we just unmuted you.
Yeah, this is Susan Logue. I'm a resident of Hollister, California. We are going to have a fundraiser for the library this week, and we'd really like to know if you'd like to participate. It's at the Friends of the San Benito County Free Library. You can see our website or go to our Facebook account. We also have it up and running this week because it's National Friends of the Libraries Week. And I think you know, in the past, we've always had a very exciting outreach with the kids, and we've had them write stories, and then they win certificates, and the families come to the library. But because of COVID, we decided to do a virtual auction. So if you go to biddingowl.com, you'll find that information, and we appreciate your support.
Never mind.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Elia Salinas.
Good evening, Council. On October 2nd, I received a message from a local reporter. Quote, "I'm working on a story about a robocall that went out a couple of days ago attacking the mayor. Sal went on Facebook and denied any connection to the call, but the mayor does not believe him, and he has spoken about a group of people who are acting to bring himself and Roland down. He named you, which is I, Elia Salinas, Irma Gonzalez, and Mia Casey specifically. So I'm reaching out to you three to see if you want to comment for the story. Do you?" End quote. I replied that I needed to speak to an attorney or my attorney before I was going to make any comment. After speaking to my attorney, I replied, quote, "You brought this to my attention with the mayor's assertions that I am either responsible or affiliated with the robocall. I am not. I have been a Democrat since reaching legal age to vote. Any and all statements I have made regarding the mayor, actions, or lack thereof, I bring forth at the dais, which is on the public record, on my own accord, without direction from any group, association, or affiliation." Unquote. I have been coming forth to these meetings for years. The mayor has been accusing me of being affiliated with developers, continuing with the accusations without any evidence whatsoever. I am not employed by any developers because I come before the dais and I speak on what I believe is what I feel to be good for the city and for its constituents. I come forth and I speak for those that do not have a voice and ask that I speak on what we believe is the right thing for the city and its constituents. We know about the harassment from the mayor and from Councilman Resendez, from the dais, to myself and to other citizens of this city. They put the city at risk. They know that they put the city at risk for lawsuits. Resendez was censured and right back right again, went out at it. This is a behavior that is being seen, and November 3rd will show that the citizens are tired of the mayor's actions.
There are no more speakers.
Thank you. We're going to move to D1, City Manager's Report.
Nothing to report at this time.
On D2, Training.
Nothing, no training at this time.
Thank you. We're going to move to item E1, Public Hearing.
Good evening, Mayor Velasquez, members of the City Council. My name is Brian Swanson. Serve as the Development Services Director for the City of Hollister. Before you this evening is a second reading of the shopping cart containment ordinance. If approved this evening, this ordinance will be in effect 30 days from this evening. So if the council has any questions, I'm here to answer.
Okay. Is there any questions from council?
No.
Okay. At this time, I will open it to public hearing. Do we have any speakers?
It looks like Jonathan Casey. Jonathan, we're going to go ahead and unmute you.
Hi, this is John Casey. I don't know if I can still speak. I had a public comment from before, I had my hand raised and I wasn't called upon.
No, this is a different item already.
I realize that, but I did have my hand raised.
Yes, but we're on a different topic now.
There was no
Thank
hand
you.
raised during.
So no speakers. This time we will close public comment. Any other questions from council? Is there a motion?
I move that we read by title only, waive full reading, and adopt ordinance number 1196 to amend the Hollister Municipal Code, Section 9.30, shopping cart containment.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Against is
No.
motion carries 3-1. We're going to move to item E2.
Good evening. Again, this is a second reading of an ordinance that amends our park and recreation section of the code, in particular regulating tents and shelters. Second reading, if the council does approve this this evening, it'll take effect 30 days from tonight. So.
Is there any questions from council?
No.
No.
This time we'll open it to the public. Is there any speakers?
There are no speakers, Mr. Mayor.
This time we will close the public comment. Any other questions or comments from the council?
No.
Is there a motion?
I move that we read by title only, waive full reading, and adopt ordinance number 1197 to amend Hollister Municipal Code Section 12.32, Park and Recreation Use Regulations.
There is a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. We're going to move to item E3.
Good evening. This is a first reading of an ordinance amendment to our accessory residential uses and structures section of the code. And I would like to just give a brief background on where this ordinance came from. In the month of June 2020, code enforcement issued approximately 130 compliance orders to city residents who were in violation of the Hollister Municipal Code 17.16.020. More specifically, Section 2D, which details the setback and height limitations for accessory units and structures. Since beginning enforcement, our department has received widespread feedback from residents who are in violation. The overwhelming consensus among the public has been that the current setback and height limitations are too restrictive and stifle their abilities to build and place accessory units and structures on their property. Code enforcement in collaboration with the Planning, Building, and Fire Department seek to introduce an amendment to Section 2D of the Accessory Building Code. Currently, all accessory buildings and structures must be set back a minimum of 10 feet from the main building and 5 feet from any other accessory buildings or structures on the property. What we propose is amending this section to allow accessory buildings or structures of 120 square feet or less and 15 feet in height or less to be set back a minimum of 5 feet from the main building and 3 feet from any other building or structures on the property. The changes that are being proposed closely align with the guidelines of the California Building Code and do not seek to make drastic revisions to the existing code. We hope that by modifying the setback and height requirements, this will allow City of Hollister residents greater accommodations to build and place accessory structures on their property, especially if they reside on a smaller lot. Residents will have greater freedom in regards to where they choose to place accessory structures on the property. We believe that this is a more amicable solution for both the City of Hollister and its residents. This was also brought to the city's Planning Commission in September as well, and we brought it to that board, and they had no comments on the ordinance as it's being presented to the City Council. And that concludes the staff recommendation and staff report.
Thank you. Any questions from council?
Yes.
Go ahead, Councilman Lenore.
I don't know. I'll ask Brian, because you're the lead on it. It's more fire department related. I was working for the city when they put in the current setbacks. We had a rash of shed fires, as I recall. So they were very concerned that they were too close to the houses. And then what's the setback from the fence? That's, you said buildings, 3 feet from other buildings and 5 feet from the main building. But what about the fence?
Sure, great question. If the structure is 120 square feet or less, you may be up close, as close to 18 inches from the fence.
And the shed needs some fire rating to get 18 inches, as I recall. But anyway, I want to know what changed, because you had an aggressive campaign about 20 years ago. Fire department took the lead, recognized we had an issue, so we moved to 10 feet from the main structure.
Yeah.
So maybe something's changed, maybe construction's better, or how are we going with less now?
Well, Chief Bedoya is here
Okay.
to talk about the fire aspect of the
Okay.
question. But I will say for the land use, from a land use perspective, our backyards are becoming smaller and smaller. And so we have to kind of analyze, we want these individuals in these homes to use their backyards as best as possible.
I don't have
so-
a problem with going down, I have a problem with fire safety.
Sure.
Hi, this is Charlie, your fire marshal. Thank you for letting me come on up here. Yeah, the setbacks, these are good. You know, back in the day when we at first started, the department was a one-house department. We had 2 people on a fire engine, and that was responsible for the whole population and even up into the county. Well, right now, we have upstaffed a little bit more than what we did then. We have good water supplies, and then we have pre-connects that can reach anywhere that we go. So our pre-connects will actually hit 200 feet.
Okay.
Initially, we could even hit it from the street from what we have to immediately knock it down. If they were big, huge structures, I'd be concerned, but a 12 by 10,
Okay.
that's nothing. By the time we get there, it might already be burned down, and it might just get a fence. So, but we could still get there and knock it down really fast from where we're positioned at right now. So we do support it. They've all been there already, so we're just making it legal now.
Well, that's always a concern for me, though, because you set the future in place when you change stuff to accommodate what's already illegal, non-conforming. So you're kind of taking things that were placed illegally and making them conform. So I have mixed feelings on that. But I do want people to be able to use their yards. And Brian, I think part of the problem is we're putting too much house on the lot. You're not leaving any areas for enough yard and enough accessory structures for them to have storage for their anything. That's part of the problem when you got those small lots. So maybe we'll talk about that. So we're good on the fire. What about the fence, though? Is there any fire rating required in order to have it 18 inches to a fence? Because as I recall, that was your really main issue, was the fence catching on fire and then the next fence catching on fire.
Well, the fence line's okay. I mean, it's wood, it's it's not
Okay.
sawdust. Sawdust is a lot more flammable. Wood's a little more dense, so it takes a little bit more
Okay.
time. But they are drier, and they do there. So there's really nothing flammable on them. They could stain them, but we'd be able to hit it and knock it down really
Okay,
fast.
so you're confident it's okay?
Yeah, I'm confident.
Thank you.
We've had numerous fence fires, and we've knocked them down to contain them
Okay.
to the fences with minimal on the structures, so.
All right,
we-
that's all I wanted to
We're willing
know.
to work with that.
Thank you.
Robbie. Thank you.
That was my only question.
Any other questions from council?
No.
This time we'll open it to public. Do we have any speaker cards?
There are no speakers, Mr. Mayor.
This time we'll close public hearing. Any other comments or questions from council?
Yes. I just want to say that it's really good to be able to accommodate the public very much. You know, sometimes you probably wonder, where am I coming from? But I'm just about following the law. So we're going to change it to make it better for you, and this really pleases me to you to be able to have this less restrictive setback. So thank you for bringing it to our attention, and I'm glad that we were able to pass that, and you'll see that it was unanimous. So we all agree that it's a good idea. Thank you so much. That's all.
Okay. Thank you. Is there a motion?
I move that we, excuse me just a second. I move that we
Read by title.
read by title only, waive full reading, and introduce an ordinance of the city of Hollister to amend section 17.16.020, accessory residential uses and structures.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carries 4-0. We'll move to item F1.
Where is he?
Yes, good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. K-9 Dallas has served the Hollister Police Department and the community of Hollister with distinction since 2016. He has assisted in multiple narcotic and felony suspect arrests. He has faithfully served his handler, Officer Miguel Masso, and protected other police personnel. K-9 Dallas has performed and demonstrated his abilities in several community events that showcase law enforcement tactics and community outreach. Officer Masso, who has served with the Hollister Police Department for 6 years, and in that time recovered over 32 guns off the streets of Hollister and arrested over 256 DUI drivers. But unfortunately, due to injuries sustained during an arrest of a suspect armed with a gun, will be retiring, and his last day with us was September 11th. It is common practice to retire canines to their handlers when the dog has reached an age or condition where they can no longer be of service. K-9 Dallas is a 9-year-old German Shepherd that began service with the Hollister Police Department in October of 2016. Due to Dallas's age and associated training costs, it has been determined that Dallas should not be moved to a new handler. The police department desires to retire K-9 Dallas from law enforcement service and enter into a retirement contract with Miguel Masso. The department would like to retire the K-9 so the dog may live out his remaining years with someone who has and will continue to care for him in his forever home. City Council approval is necessary for the transfer of these city assets, Dallas, and Dallas was donated to the city of Hollister when the department acquired him in 2016. Do you have any questions?
Any questions from council?
No.
Do we have any speaker cards?
There are no speakers, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Is there a motion on this item?
I make a motion that we accept resolution number 2020-202, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Hollister approving the agreement for the Hollister Police Department to retire K-9 Officer Dallas from the Police Department's K-9 unit and improve contract with K-9's former handler.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Motion carries 4-0. We'll move to item F2.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and fellow council members. This is Paul De Silva, the Information Systems Director for the city. The item before you is an updated agreement between the cities of Hollister, Gilroy, and San Juan Bautista, and CMAP, Community Media Access Partnership. Back in 2001, an original agreement was created with the help of a consultant, Sue Buskey, group, and we asked her to also participate in updating this agreement and also making some changes, and therefore we have the agreement before you. Some changes to the agreement, including updating the agreement to include the 2006 DIPCA ordinance, the Digital Infrastructure and Video Act of 2006, which took away the capability of the cities to negotiate local franchises with cable companies and brought that to the state for state franchises. So now cable companies need to become state franchises. And also there was in 2010, there was a settlement agreement between all 3 cities and Charter Communications on fiber network and video work that was not completed, and there was a settlement at that time, which basically allowed the cities to receive a settlement based on excuse me, I'm going blank here right now. Based on the things that Charter Communications did not do in that original agreement. In this agreement, all 3 cities' representatives got together and wanted to make some changes from the original agreement, in which we now have the city of Gilroy participating and having CMAP cover their council meetings and planning commission meetings, which wasn't the case before. For the city of Hollister, it includes adding the airport commission and planning commission to the coverage that was actually separate from the original agreements. Now all planning commission, airport, and city council meetings are covered by CMAP. Part of the funding that goes to CMAP for equipment, the cities would like to see some of that money be put aside to replace equipment here in council chambers and other needs as needed for audiovisual equipment. Currently, that was always a kind of a discussion that was going back and forth at what was covered and what was not covered. So now this agreement actually stipulates that a little bit better. We put 10% of the money aside that CMAP gets so that the cities can actually, instead of having to budget separately for it, it can be recovered out of these funds. It's a 5-year agreement beginning January 2021 through December 31st of 2025. 3% of the PEG funds that come from the cable companies go directly to CMAP for the equipment. 20% of the franchise fees that come to each of the cities will continue coming to CMAP to cover the operational pieces of covering the meetings. In 2022, that'll go from 20 to 22%, which will increase for Hollister about $4,400 a year, about $1,100 or so a quarter, and that's based on the amount of cable subscribers. That could be up or down. Besides that, the city of Gilroy is this evening reviewing the agreement on their end, as San Juan Bautista is reviewing it on their end tomorrow, and we are asking the council to review and approve at this meeting. Any questions?
Thank you. Any questions from council?
Yeah.
Did you have a question?
No, I'm sorry, I didn't.
Do we have any speaker card?
We have one speaker,
Go ahead.
Kevin.
Good evening, council and mayor. I just wanted to, since this is talking about media access, giving access to people to view these meetings. I just wanted to make the point that, you know, as I'm sitting outside waiting for a seat to open up here, you know, I logged into the Zoom meeting, and, you know, the audio that's coming from the chambers here out on Zoom is not great. It's mask on?
No,
Oh.
talking to closer.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, there, see, now we can hear you better. Then
Thank you.
Zoom can hear you better.
Zoom can hear me better, okay.
There, that's what we need.
So, yeah, if you're listening on Zoom, maybe you can comment how well you can hear people here. But yeah, I just want to point out, the audio's not good. And I think it's a problem that could be solved. And I don't know if the agreement with CMAP, if they have some technology that we could take advantage of here. But I just wanted to point that out. And I know I brought it up a couple times with Carol, and you've said, you know, this is the best we can do.
For
so
now.
Yeah, for now. So
Yeah, COVID came unexpectedly. It's a whole new area for the city.
yeah. All right. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, Kevin.
Do we have any other speakers?
There are no more speakers.
Is there any other questions or comments from council?
No.
Is there a motion?
I make a motion that we accept resolution number 2020-203, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Hollister executing an agreement with the cities of Gilroy, San Juan Bautista, and the Community Media Access Partnership, CMAP, for public education and government PEG services.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion carries 4-0. We'll move to item F3.
Thank you, Mayor. I have Kathleen Gallagher on Zoom, and we'll bring her up right now to speak on this item.
Hi, this is Kathleen Gallagher, Integrated Waste Management for the Regional Agency, which includes Hollister, San Juan Bautista, and the county. Just wanted to make sure my audio was working.
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you so much. Good evening, City Council members and Mayor. This item was continued from a prior meeting that you might recall regarding the Recology rate increase. You have a staff report and a resolution, and the item before you is regarding a recommendation to approve an amendment to the franchise agreement that we have with Recology, which allows a 6-month delay in the rate increase for Recology. You'll recall at the prior meetings, there was concern about the rate increase due to the COVID-related impacts for our residents and our businesses. After the meetings that we had, senior staff met from Recology, San Juan Bautista, and the county with Recology via Zoom, and discussed various options to consider to delay this rate impact. And on September 9th, there was a unanimous consensus to delay the impact for 6 months. The amount that 6-month delay would be in a deferred amount for Recology is $251,914. And the method that was agreed upon is to establish a balancing account, and that balancing would be paid over time to Recology from the regional agency members. Those would be via payments for performance disincentives and liquidated damages. And one of the key reasons why this option was selected was because it had no rate impact for the 6-month for the rate payers. I'm happy to answer any questions, but that's a fairly short synopsis of the issue. The resolution includes the establishment of that balancing account and allows Brett Miller to authorize Hollister to participate, County of San Benito has approved this last month, and City of San Juan Bautista will be considering this item tomorrow. Obviously, because we are a regional agency and 3 members that work together, the intent is for us to work as one, as the resolution. Phil Couchet, the general manager of Recology, is also on the line, and we are happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from council? Do we have any speaker cards?
There are no speakers, Mr. Mayor.
Is there a motion?
Right there.
Elia Salinas?
Hi, good evening. Okay, Phil and Kathleen. I have been coming here since April requesting for a defer of payment for the citizens, for the county and the city of San Juan Bautista, based on COVID and the economic crisis that we're in, to not increase for at least a year. Now you're giving them 6 months. Nothing has improved. There are more people unemployed now than when I started coming up here and complaining that this contract could not go forward. Yes, it has to go forward because there's a binding agreement that the city has to approve it or they're going to get sued. Where is your humanity? This company is a multi-billion-dollar company. You are not offering anything to the citizens of this county and the 2 cities. You make it appear like you're doing them a benefit. You're not doing anybody a benefit. Phil, you've got your job. You don't get to go home and not worry about your bills not being paid. But there are many people that are home right now that don't know how they're going to have their bills paid. We right now have a non-eviction in the state of California. People are not paying their bills. People are going to be losing their cars, and they've already started to losing their cars. It's an economic crisis, and you're not doing any benefit at all to the citizens of this area. Where is your compassion as a corporation? You are validating that you have no compassion for people who have lost their jobs, for people that have gotten sick. I am literally sick to my stomach to say that you're deferring the payment to the citizens of the city. How does that work? Are you telling me now that you're going to be so kind and you're offering a benefit for 6 months and it's going to be about $200,000 and it's being deferred and we're going to pay for it as the citizens and the city? Whether it's the city or the county, it comes back from our pockets. We don't have the money. We are losing money every day as a city and as a county because of COVID. Your company, a multi-billion-dollar company, does not give its employees raises at what you're asking the citizens to pay in a rate increase. All I can do is speak up here, but it's up to the council and it's up to you, and I will be at the Board of Supervisors tomorrow as well, that this is really no compassion whatsoever to the citizens.
Thank you.
We have another speaker, Peter Lago. Peter, go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, listening to the back and forth on Recology, I just have a couple questions. Are they using our landfill?
Mr. Mayor, can I answer that question? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, they're using the John Smith landfill, yes.
Okay, is there concessions made for them using our landfill, and can that offset this cost?
It's a good question. The rates that were established are part of a contract, and the rates were established. We could consider certainly asking Waste Connections for a rate reduction, but that was not something that was provided direction upon.
given the circumstances that we're facing right now, could we not offset the cost of this by the balance of what they would normally be paying us for the use of our landfill?
So the balance, just to back up, so the 6-month deferral is a total of $251,914. That is the rate that would have, the revenue that would have been paid to Recology if that rate went effective July 1st is at 2020 as the franchise agreement outlined.
Correct. So moving forward within the next 6 months, could we not offset the amount that they pay us in order to use our landfill in order to cover this spread?
That's not something that that has been discussed in the past. What was discussed in the past and the direction that was given to Recology and to myself as the staff of IWM is to discuss with Recology options to defer the rate for a period of time. There was not direction to talk to Waste Connections about reducing the rate tonnage.
May I make the suggestion to council that they look into this as a possibility to offset said debt?
Yes.
The issue is that the city doesn't have control over the landfill. That's a county issue. The county sold, I believe, some of the rights. They got an early cash out about 5-6 years ago to set the rate at a certain rate that they dealt with the landfill operator. The city does not have any control over that whatsoever.
Okay. Well, just worth looking into, and I'm just curious, so I just wanted to ask.
Great point. No, great point. And I wish we did have some control over it so we could do exactly that. But that was a county deal that was made with the operator out there, and they cashed out for several million to get money up front. So that's nothing that the city can negotiate on.
Understood. Thank you for your time.
No problem. Thank you.
Make one additional point that I know we brought up in June, and again, if there's additional questions for Phil Couchet, I wanted to just remind folks, because I know there's so much that's been going on, but when the competitive procurement was completed back in 2017 and 2018, there were 3 proposals that were received. There were, of the 3 proposals, the lowest was Recology. So these were one of the reasons why the selection committee had chosen Recology. That's one point, because if the lowest, we basically went with the lowest proposer. The second point is I wanted to bring up that Phil Couchet had put together some information regarding the Hollister ratepayers, and approximately 74% of the Hollister ratepayers for the residents have a 32-gallon or smaller that is collected weekly, and that's a $1.45 increase per month. So I wanted to just put into context what type of dollar amount we're talking about for this rate increase, because I think sometimes the percentages can be basically, in people's minds, phantom numbers, but I wanted to give real numbers to the city council for consideration, that's the amount that we're talking about. So I wanted to share that and see if there were, of course, any additional questions, or if there were questions for the general manager of Recology.
Thank you. Any questions,
Yes.
council?
Yes, please.
Go ahead.
Kathleen or Mr. Couchet, when we put the RFP out, and I think you said 2017, when we put the RFP out, the other 2 agencies that bid along with you for the garbage service, did they have inflators built into their contract annually? Do you recall?
I'm so sorry. I'm having such a hard time hearing the audio. Could I hear that question again, please?
The other 2 firms that bid with you on the RFP for the garbage service, do you recall if they had an annual adjustment in their contract proposal?
Yes, they did, because everybody had to work with the same franchise agreement.
So it's pretty much a customarily thing to have those inflators in a contract.
the franchise agreement that was established, that was included within the request for proposal, all had the exact same
Okay.
terms. So there weren't different terms for different proposers.
Okay.
They all had to propose on exactly the same terms. It was the only way to do it, to provide really an apples to apples comparison for all of the proposers.
Okay. Can I give my thoughts now, or do I wait for anybody else to ask questions?
I'd like to ask a question.
Go ahead.
Kathleen, you said you lowered the residential rates, but did you not put that the difference on the backs of our small businesses? Didn't their rates increase?
So what was the direction from this was the direction from the elected officials of each of the three residential and commercial of the regional agencies. There was a direction to basically provide the residential, and I have to go back to that staff report and what the direction was. So my apologies to not remember it exactly. But it was regarding the residential rates. We wanted to certainly keep the residential rates as competitive as possible and as low as possible, but still be able to meet the state waste reduction mandates. If we could we, Phil Couchet likely could provide additional information in that area.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, as Kathleen said, we all bid on the same package, and Recology was the lowest bidder. So regardless of whoever would have other gotten the contract, the rates would have been adjusted similarly. In fact, would have been adjusted higher than with what Recology did.
Well, I don't think my question was answered. Or maybe I just don't understand it. From what I'm understanding, you're lowering the rates for the residents, which is nice, but now you're putting it on the commercial businesses, the small businesses, which are really impacted by this virus.
So my apologies, I didn't understand that the rate increase is the same rate increase across all ratepayers. My apologies. I didn't understand your question. I thought you were talking about the revenue at the start of the franchise agreement with Recology.
And could I make a point also?
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, and we've been very cognizant of the effects that the COVID's had on both the residential customer, and the commercial customer. And in fact, the commercial customers, by and large, have either reduced service considerably, or suspended service entirely. And we've done that, and there's been hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue that we would otherwise have collected that we haven't collected due to the reduced or suspended service. In addition, to the residential, we've suspended stopping service to those that haven't paid. In addition, we have not sent people to collections who haven't paid. That's a practice that we've always had in place, and with the inception of COVID, we do have sympathy to the residents. And I'd like to repeat, as Kathleen said, the 4.5% increase in January to close to 75% of your residents is going to be $1.45 per month.
Thank you. Any other questions? Do we have any other speakers?
There are no more speakers.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
I have comment.
Go ahead.
I waited till the public hearing. I have
Go ahead,
I
Attorney
have
Lenore.
mixed feelings here. This is a tough one for me, but I try to make the tough calls. Fact is we're our corporation. We signed a contract with another corporation. We're now in breach of contract, which I wasn't for in the beginning. And they have done things to address the COVID and the less business that's going on. And as I recall, I thought it was $1.20 a month increase for the residential service. And it was something like $6 more a month for that smaller business. I didn't really like that part, but I just think the $1.20 is not over the top. And now, I wonder if people thought it was just gonna go away. No, now we got debt on us, and I never liked that. This is why you don't conduct business and enter in a potential breach of contract. This was their answer and the only answer. And let's remember too, that even though we had the COVID, nothing changed for the garbage collection. That's what you call that service that just kept going. And now there's more garbage because people are staying home and they're cooking more and they're doing home projects. So all this stuff's in the garbage, and it didn't stop for Recology. Their business probably got more busier, sort of, except for the commercial that has cut back. But now we have 6 months to make up for, and I don't like that. But it's a contract, it's business, and they had that inflator in there. So it is tough for me, but all along I supported the binding contract. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Yeah, I think we're put in a tough position, and I think Recology is too. I remember when we first had this conversation, they didn't have to go back and they didn't have to make the accommodations or be as flexible as they were. I appreciate the fact that you guys did. I think we were all in a very stressful place at that time, and we did not want to see this pass. So I'm grateful to you guys. I understand the position you're in. I understand that you have employees and you have mouths to feed. I agree with Councilmember Lenore. There are people that have been home and probably have way more garbage now. I think I'm one of them because we could get home and I'm ordering stuff online like crazy. So I appreciate the accommodations you did. People have to understand the position that we're in, that we entered a contract. And it's tough on you guys just as everybody, and we've got to get through this. And, you know, thank you for, again, being flexible, and just keep in mind, you know, that at times we need to pivot and be a little bit more sensitive to the public's needs. So thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Is there a motion?
Mr. Mayor, if I, before the motion, I wanted to, I was speaking or emailing, exchange with Brett earlier today. I did want to be clear that this particular recommendation is to establish the amendment to the franchise agreement, which establishes the balancing account and allows the 6-month deferral of the rate increase. I just wanted to be clear on that, and that we would be coming back to City Council in December 7th for it's the continuation of the public hearing, and it's basically a restatement of those rates that would have been effective July 1st of 2020. So we'll be continuing that portion to December 7th of 2020.
Thank you for pointing that out for the public, all of us. Is everyone clear? Any other questions on that? Is there a motion?
I move that we adopt resolution number 2020-204 as stated.
Thank you. Is there a second? I'm sorry?
I will second that motion.
You'll second that motion. There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Against? Was there anyone against it?
No.
Motion carries 4-0. We'll move to item F4.
Thank you, Mayor. Renee is going to be talking on it.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council members. This is Renee Perales from Administrative Services. Tonight before you, I have resolution number 2020-205, which will approve an MOU between the City of Hollister and the County of San Benito for the partnership of the 2019 2020 CDBG grant as it relates to the public services application for the homeless shelter. In May 2020, the City Council approved a resolution approving an application for the 2019-2020 CDBG grant. One of the public services that we applied for was the homeless shelter. The County of San Benito also applied for the same public service. As a result, HCD reached out to both the city and the county to let us know that since we were both applying for the same funding, that we needed to have one agency be the lead agency and apply for the grant as co-applicants. So HCD has asked us to provide an updated resolution and an MOU and resubmit the application. The County of San Benito will be the lead agency and will apply for a total of $500,000 to support the operations of the homeless shelter. Staff recommends that you adopt this resolution approving the MOU with the county.
Thank you. Any questions from council?
No.
Do we have any speaker cards?
Looks like we have one speaker, Jonathan Casey.
Hi, this is John Casey. I'm in support of the MOU. I also wanted to note that it might be good with the shopping cart ordinance that you passed that we build additional storage, maybe take some of this money and use it for storage for homeless. Might encourage them to stop using the carts so we don't just have a revolving door of shopping carts moving in and out for those folks. Thank you.
There are no other speakers.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
I move that we adopt resolution number 2020-205 as presented.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any against? Motion carries 4-0. We'll move to item F5.
Good evening, Council. This is Jamila Saka, Housing Programs Coordinator with Development Services. And tonight before you, I have resolution number 2020-206, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Hollister to approve applying for and entering into agreements for the Regional Early Action Planning Grant. This is the REAP grant, which I have previously discussed at the last City Council meeting. And at this time, staff recommends to receive the report and adopt the resolution authorizing staff to apply for the Regional Early Action Planning Grant with the purpose to prepare and adopt a housing element that includes a component to facilitate compliance with the sixth cycle regional housing needs allocation. At this time, I want to suggest if there are any other questions or anything else that I could help with. But again, this is just a resolution to apply for the grant. There is no confirmation yet of the funding.
Thank you. Any questions from council? No. Do we have any speaker cards?
There are no speakers.
Is there a motion?
I make a motion that we accept resolution number 2020-206 as presented.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries 4-0. We'll move to item F6.
Good evening, City Council, Mr. Mayor. This is Eva with the Planning Department. The item before you tonight was continued from a previous meeting to tonight's agenda. And this item is a request to initiate a general plan amendment to designate 4 parcels which are located east of San Felipe Road and both north and south of Highway 156 as industrial and to include them in the general plan planning area, as well as to initiate the pre-zone process for future annexation for those same 4 parcels. The APNs 014-120-055, 014-120-063, and 014-120-064 are being requested to be pre-zoned to the Industrial Business Park zoning district, while staff is recommending that APN 014-120-014 be pre-zoned to the Light Industrial zoning district. And the total area requested for pre-zone of these 4 parcels is approximately 229 acres. Upon the City Council's approval of the initiation of the general plan amendment and pre-zone, staff would be able to accept an application for both the general plan amendment as well as the pre-zone, and then we would be able to begin the environmental review process for this area of land. And just please note tonight that the initiation of a general plan amendment does require a 4/5 vote of approval from the council in order to move forward. So it's not a regular 3/5 vote as it is with many of our resolutions. And with that, staff recommends that the City Council adopt a resolution approving the initiation of a general plan amendment, as well as the initiation of pre-zone for future annexation of the 4 parcels as described. And thank you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Any questions from council?
Yeah, Mayor, can I add a few things to this? Because one of the tasks were for me to work on a tax sharing agreement with the county. We are in negotiations with them, but county, just like us, has only 4 seats. So, and we kind of know how that goes some nights here. So the county has requested that they wait till they have that 5th vote to iron out that tax sharing agreement. But I want to remind you that this is the first step to making sure this area doesn't become residential within the county area. And like I say, this is our first step towards making it industrial. Like staff said, we really need the EIR to be completed so we know exactly what can be done at that location. Staff feels that right now this is actually a little bit too early to be doing that tax sharing agreement, because we need to know what's going on out there. And then also we need to kind of see what the development agreement will look like, because if we do this too soon, we might be leaving some money on the table. So staff recommends that you adopt this first step for us.
Thank you. Any questions from council?
No, but I'll concur with the city manager. It's what I said at the last meeting.
Thank you. Do we have any speaker cards?
Yes, Joe Jackalum.
I only filled it out to answer questions.
Oh, okay. I don't see any speakers.
I'm sorry, what did they say?
We do have a speaker, Elia Salinas.
Good evening. So nothing has changed that I'm aware of, other than the mayor was not going to approve this project unless there was a tax sharing agreement with San Benito County on all development projects. On that meeting, September 9 or 8, he was specifically instructed and given information, not instructed, I'm sorry, given information, educating him, although he already knows what it goes, but he kind of plays dumb. This project should have gone forward a month ago, but he had a grandstand. Nothing has changed except for one thing. He got together with Bill Christopher and videotaped himself with Bill Christopher as his guest, claiming that this was a great project and we should go forward with it. But that's not what he said in September. Just 6 weeks ago, that's not what he said. He said it's a possibility, that it's a great start. Then he gets Bill Christopher to endorse him, and then he goes down in the same video and shoots down the project on 25 that we all know is known as Measure N. This is all political grandstanding on the mayor. I've only got 3 minutes and I'm gonna sit down and then he's gonna write me about how this is not true. The people of the city of Hollister, the people who vote, are paying attention to what he's putting out there. And the people need to know that the only reason that now this is a good idea, and it's probably going to pass tonight by 4 votes, because now we have Councilman Resendez, who we know is a puppet to the mayor and only agrees and votes exactly as the mayor does. Yes, I've said it because people think it and people are out there talking about it, and he is. What has changed, Mayor Velasquez, other than you've gotten Bill Christopher to go on video and endorse you as the mayor on the same time you shoot down project on 25 known as Measure N? I have no idea that whether or not they're associated. It is my understanding and the information I've got that this project has absolutely nothing to do with any of the campaign against Measure N.
Mayor,
Go ahead, sir.
Chief Bedolla would like to speak about this project also, if that's okay.
We have another public comment too.
Okay.
Okay, Victor Gomez. Go ahead, Victor.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council, this is Victor Gomez representing the applicants on this project. I was going to hold back on making comments, but I just wanted to let you folks know that we did initiate, along with Brett, I know that Brett had a conversation with the county. We did initiate a conversation with the county on the tax sharing agreement. We do want to let you folks know that we are in the process of working with the city and the county and ironing the details out of the tax sharing agreement. We would appreciate your support in moving this forward, and I hope you also understand too that we cannot continue forward to LAFCO until we get this tax sharing agreement approved. So, you know, if there are concerns there, we could certainly iron those out, but moving this forward tonight certainly wouldn't hinder you from a bad outcome if you look at it that way in a tax sharing agreement. We want to obviously get the support of both legislative bodies in moving this forward. So anyway, we just wanted to thank you for that. And then just clarification, you know, we have project concepts out there. We have some ideas that we want, you know, that we're working with right now out there in this research and development center. But, you know, we look forward to working with the council and bringing back a project that I think the entire council could be supportive of. So anyway, I just wanted to share that with you. I know the mayor asked us to move that forward. And again, we have had those conversations with the county. We look forward to continuing those conversations, ironing out a tax sharing agreement, and then eventually going to LAFCO with something that both the county and city could be supportive of. So anyway, with that said, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
There are no more speakers.
Staff.
Go ahead, sir.
I guess we do have a speaker.
Yeah, he's been standing there.
Hi, this is Charlie Bedolla. I am your fire marshal. Once again, you know, I'd like to just thank staff and the mayor and everybody for your support on this project. I understand there has been a lot of work, but there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that have been going into the project. And I understand that we would like to move forward, but I understand that there's been a lot of homework and research on this project. So thank you for all the work that you guys have put in making your decision on tonight. And I know I support this project, and thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Council, for all the work that you've done to research this, to understand what exactly is going on here. So I do appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I hear there was another speaker, Mr. Giacalone. Did I hear?
Did you want to speak? Yes. Okay, yes, go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, and staff. First off, I want to make it clear that Bill Christopher cut no deal with the mayor, and to the best of my knowledge, and I viewed the video, I had conversations with Bill Christopher, and I had conversations with the mayor, and we never endorsed the mayor. So whoever said that we endorsed the mayor, that did not happen. What I was instructed to do by the city council last time we were here was to meet with all the different entities. So I've met with the police chief, I've met with the fire chief, I've met with the superintendent of schools, and I've met with Dr. Rose remotely, and they're all in favor of the project. And as the staff knows, Mr. Christopher is willing to give up his wells to the city of Hollister to help recharge the system down at that end of the county, and that's 3 wells that he's literally going to give to the city. So I just wanted to make it clear that there were no backdoor deals cut. I don't know any of the other politics going on. There is a lot of anger in the room, so I just wanted to clear up that Mr. Christopher made no deals of any type. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Chief Bob?
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Bob Martino, Campo Fire Chief, San Benito County, Hollister. Hey, last Monday, I had a joint chiefs meeting with the fire chiefs of Monterey and San Benito County and the police chiefs. There's a total of 25 police chiefs and 25 fire chiefs. I told them about this project and the potential of it providing training support for public safety to be able to utilize the track, the city simulation center as far as emergency vehicle operations. That's one of the most dangerous aspects of what we do, responding to calls in high speed, especially with law enforcement and high speed pursuits. I've got 2 sons who graduated the police academy, and they have had to go all the way out to Alameda for this type of training environment. When I let these chiefs know, total of 58 chiefs of a variety of different public safety agencies, they were thrilled to find this out. They were asking a lot of questions, and they see the potential themselves for training, and most of all, the opportunity for a form of revenue generating and the institutionalization of a stronger academy. And I just want to put that out there because it's overwhelmingly accepted by public safety.
Thank you, sir. Is there any other speakers?
I don't see any speakers.
Thank you. Any other comments
Yes.
from council members?
Yes, please.
Go ahead.
Well, there's no doubt the project's good. I said that at the last meeting. But I'm a little concerned with where we're at right now. So not knowing how the mayor's gonna vote, I would like to request that you do explain your vote if it changes from last month, and what did change as far as insisting that we have a tax sharing agreement with the county. And I tried to tell you that we don't know what's actually gonna be on there, and that really it should be negotiated when you know the actual project and what's gonna be placed on there. I'm sure the county would really like to be the benefit of the full fruition of anything that's gonna be on there for their portion. So, I hear what speakers are saying. I am concerned, Mayor, I'm sorry, but I would like an explanation. Thank you, those are all my comments.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I'd like to speak.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. So I think, like I said before, we desperately need commercial industrial. That's obvious. I've got some time to talk to people. I've met with Mr. Giacalone. I've met with Mr. Gomez. I met with Mr. Miller. I met with Mr. Prado. I have learned a lot about how much benefits this is going to bring to our city, to our schools, to our staff, to our community. You know, there is some hostility in the room, and it's very apparent. Somebody even said the word anger. We've got to put our emotions aside, and we have to do what's best for the public that we represent, and we have to do our due diligence and do research. That speaker also said, is spreading misinformation, I just want to correct this, that I voted no against the project on social media. That is not true. And that I refused to meet with the developers. That is not true. And there was some other accusations on there. So I think we need to put aside our emotions, stop spreading lies and misinformation and hatefulness, to be quite frank with you. Mr. Christopher is a reputable local business owner. He owns land here. His family owns land in Gilroy. They've done nothing but good things. if I didn't rush into making a decision, it's because I wasn't exactly sure what was going to go out there. And there is a lot of pushback from the community and hesitation about approving more residential growth here. You guys know that's always been my number one concern. And I've got to be honest with you, I am really excited and enthused about this project. Do I take offense to when people come up here and make claims about me? No, because they have every right to think and say whatever they want about me. That's their prerogative. But I do want to be very honest and open and truthful about my position and about the votes that I make. So I don't think I've ever been against commercial industrial, and I'm really excited about this project. I'm excited for the future that our city has because of it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. I'm gonna say,
I actually would like to say something.
go ahead.
Okay. I have been for this from day one when it was presented to me a year ago. I've always been for this project. So is Councilwoman Lenore. But this project has been delayed for months. And I'm talking 3 months, if not more. And the two people who delayed it were Councilman Resendez and Mayor Velazquez. I knew what the project was all about. When you first delayed it, it was because both of you had not met with Mr. Giacalone. So then you arranged to meet with him, which that took quite a while. You had your opportunity to find out what was going on then. You want to talk hostility? Yeah, there's hostility because you've delayed this, like I said, for months. Roland, you even said it. You started asking questions and you're excited about it now. Why all of a sudden now? Why didn't you do it 3 months ago when it was presented to you? Like I said, this was presented to me a year ago. I have backed Mr. Giacalone and Mr. Christopher on this project from day one. I knew how imperative it was for our community to have this project. And now, a year later, and 2 delays later, you are backing this project because you're excited, because you finally researched it, you asked questions. That should have been done when it was first brought up to us months ago. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. I gotta say, I'm disappointed, but not surprised. Again, we're seeing the anger for no reason. We're hearing somebody call a council member a puppet, along with other names, for no reason. Really no reason. Accusations of backroom deals and so on. This is the kind of information that's been spread around this community for the last few years. It's a shame. It really is. You know, this is very easy to explain. Councilman Lenore, you asked the question. It's very clear, very simple. When this was first brought for the vote, I had no idea what this project was about because nobody ever informed me more than what we were reading in the packets, only to find out others were informed. So I made a simple request, as Mr. Resendez made their same request, that we wanted time to get information and explain to us what is going on. Mr. Giacalone was kind enough to make those phone calls, to have those conversations, talk about the project in many different ways in detail, and I asked him a ton of questions. And I made sure he understood if there was any residential in this whatsoever, I was not going to be supporting this project. But he went on and explained everything in good detail, and we had long conversations, and he answered the questions, and I appreciated that. We came back, then the question was about tax sharing. How do we get that done? Because I do personally feel that the county should be working at a commercial tax deal. I think it was a mistake that was not worked out in the past as it should have been. But I had a long conversation with the city manager, planning, and several other people about what's going on, how is this going to work without the tax sharing agreement settled. And they made it clear again, there are several pieces to go on this. Environmental studies have to happen, and they guaranteed again, no homes can be built here if we keep moving forward step-by-step process on this. and I asked for a lot of assurances to make sure we're getting the best information possible and accurate. There was talk about the wells being used. If you all remember, about 6 months ago, there was a conversation about spending $4 to $5 million to bring in another well from that part of the area of the city, the county. So that was a good item to be included into this. And that's how we got to these conversations. Never, never, never was there a conversation about endorsements or anything else. And it's disgusting that people keep trying to smear people and attack them on false information that keeps being spread through this community. I hear it on a daily basis. I'm just amazed that this just goes on and on and on by the same people. It's a shame. Again, I'm impressed with what Mr. Giacalone presented. I'm impressed with what's being offered to the city. As Mr. Resendez has said, we have always been in favor of commercial and industrial. As you know, I've been promoting the hotels on the things we need to be doing. Never have I said we're not going to support those types of projects. What I have said over and over again is I can't support more sprawl, more residential growth in areas we don't need it to be growing in. This is not that, and I've been guaranteed by everyone that spoke tonight to ensure that. And I hope, I really do hope, the hatred that some people have for others can just come to rest and put it into it so our city can move forward without all these smears that keeps happening and all this false information. And it's just disappointing. And I'm glad to see somebody that I actually had issues with in the past. Him and I can come along and talk and have these conversations. I want to thank Mr. Gomez. We did have issues in the past, but we're willing to talk about what we could do that's better for the city. And we've been able to have a civilized conversation. And I told him quite clearly, I'm impressed, and I wanted to thank him for having that conversation with me. That is how we work together as a community, and we put in all this hatred and these smear campaigns and calling people puppets or calling people dumb or saying there's backroom deals. Enough is enough. This needs to come to an end. Thank you. Is there a motion on that?
Point of clarification.
I'll make a motion that
I'd like
we
to
adopt
speak,
resolution
please.
number
Mr. Mayor, I would like to
2020-
speak. Mr. Mayor, I
Go
would
ahead.
like to speak. That's why I'm up here.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I just want to stress again that Marty Richmond and I were assigned the task of negotiating a residential property tax sharing agreement, period. Never any mention of industrial or commercial tax sharing agreement, although it was discussed off to the side that it would better be left once project specifics are stated, where you have a good grasp on the uses that are going to be located on the property. Never did we fall short, Mayor Velasquez, of the task that we were assigned. I really wish that you would stop saying that. It's not right. It's rude to Marty and I. Marty posthumously, because we did do the tax sharing agreement for residential. So stop saying that we didn't finish the job. That's what drives anger, when you repeat things like that. And I've corrected you 2 times now. Now it's about the 3rd time. So again, we negotiated a residential property tax sharing agreement, which is what the council sent us in there to do. Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Resendez.
Thank you. I make a motion that we adopt resolution number 2020-207, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Hollister approving the initiation of pre-zone 2020-2 to initiate the pre-zoning and expansion of the sphere of influence to include 4 properties consisting of approximately 229.32 acres located in the unincorporated area of the County of San Benito, east of San Felipe Road, to the north and south of State Route 156, further identified as San Benito County Assessors Parcels numbers 014-120-055, 014-120-063, 014-120-064, and 014-120-014, and the initiation of the General Plan Amendment 2020-1 to amend the land use plan map of the City of Hollister General Plan to include and designate the properties located at APNs 014-120-055, 014-120-063, 014-120-064, and 014-120-1014 as industrial planning.
Thank you very much. There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Motion carries 4-0. We'll move on to item F7.
Congratulations, Mr. Giacalone. Thank you, Victor. Thank you, Victor.
Congratulations. Thank you, Victor.
Mayor and Council, I just wanted to bring attention. So the next 3 items are for our parklet program. So we're going to start out with the San Benito Street, then we'll talk about the MOU with the county, and then the parklet program itself. So Danny's up to start with the San Benito Street.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council. This item will authorize the San Benito Traffic Calming and Beautification Project and approve an appropriation of funding to cover design and improvement costs. Basically, this project includes a variety of changes to San Benito Street and the city's downtown area between 4th Street and Hawkins Street. The changes that will occur, converting the existing street, San Benito Street, from a 2-way street to a 1-way street in the southbound direction only from 4th Street to South Street. Northbound traffic on San Benito Street will continue up to South Street, and it will be detoured to the east and to the west. One of the existing lanes of traffic on San Benito Street between 4th Street and South Street will be closed to allow for parklets. One-way traffic will be in the southbound area, southbound direction only in this area. San Benito Street between South Street and Hawkins will be designed for 2-way traffic with a parklet. The northbound traffic on San Benito Street in that area will be detoured to the east and west onto South Street. The existing parking on San Benito Street will be replaced with diagonal parking, and new stop signs will be installed at the intersections of San Benito Street and 6th Street, as well as San Benito Street and 7th Street. As part of the project, there will be a traffic analysis of 17 street intersections within the surrounding area to evaluate traffic impacts and mitigation measures that will be taken into consideration during design. Those study intersections include Monterey Street at 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, South Street, and Monterey at Hawkins. San Benito Street at 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, South Street, and Hawkins, and East Street at 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, South Street, and Hawkins. To provide the City Council with a more detailed discussion of the traffic calming concept, Mr. Frederick Venter of Kimberly Horn, our consultant, will be providing a brief presentation to the City Council, and it is the intent of the presentation to provide the City Council with a better understanding of the project and provide the City Council to ask questions for clarification. Also, as part of this project, an initial budget of $150,000 will be established to cover design and road improvement cost. And with that, if I can turn it over to Frederick.
Great, thank you, Danny. Good evening, council members. While we're putting up the PowerPoint, it's a very exciting project, and I would love to share with you the concept layouts and enter into a discussion about the pros and cons of what you're trying to do. I think it's a great downtown project, and let's see what we have. I do apologize. The date on this was when we prepared the PowerPoint. So next slide, please. So the purpose of this study is to create a typical downtown street with low travel speeds, very important, and an extensive pedestrian-friendly environment. So keep those two in mind. The extent is from 4th Street in the north, and we in this treatment between Hawkins, and South Street in the south end. We're recommending one-way traffic in the southbound direction. And then we're going to talk a little bit about front in or back in diagonal parking and look at some examples and the pros and cons and what we may be in for. And then what this really does is open up parklets for restaurants and potentially stores as well, right? If there's a busy Saturday and the weather is great, we may even allow a store to also use some of the outdoor space. So I think that's a good point to keep in mind. If this is going to be accessible to pedestrians and cars, we in the cross section, we're also making it bike friendly. And then since this is a change and we're going to have a very pedestrian friendly environment, I think it's important to protect pedestrians that's going to be out within the curbs, having a meal or shopping or walking or parking. Next slide, please. So from a traffic perspective, the considerations that are important is number one is operations, right? Where does the traffic go to? And we're going to come back with a traffic study, but of course, we're eliminating the northbound volumes, and typically traffic distributes to the two closest parallel streets. In the short term, there will be congestion, but traffic tends to find, since these are typical trips, they tend to find equilibrium, and people may also find some other streets to divert to, and we'll discuss that if we bring back the traffic analysis to you. We're going to talk about some of the mid-block pedestrian crossings, and what need to happen in the design and how we can keep or eliminate those. We also decided to keep the alleyways in these mid-blocks because we have deliveries and trash pickup, and we're going to discuss those in a little bit of detail. And then you will see in the layouts that we are recommending barriers to help protect the street and layout that we are recommending. It's important there are businesses along the street, right? So how do we accommodate deliveries along the street? And then, of course, the backing parking is like, you say, what? So this is like a brand new something that, it's not in a lot of places. And, so we will talk a little bit about that as well. Next slide, please. So this is the existing street. We have cross sections between the curbs that vary between about 50 feet south of South Street and north of that up to 56th Street curb to curb. We have parking on both sides of the street. We have basically two travel lanes, and we have the ability to have turn pockets at the intersections. Next slide, please. So this shows the recommended typical cross-section. Sort of the blue arrows show where your curbs are currently. And then we're looking at a combination of some outdoor space on the left-hand side. We can fit in a 5-foot bike lane, an 11-foot travel lane, and then 20-foot angle parking. So the angle parking and, of course, the outdoor dining can be flip-flop. You can have parking on both sides, and you can also have outdoor dining or a parklet on both sides as well. So you will see in the concepts how we flip-flop those. So in essence, 16 feet of travel width that will be used by cars to actually park and the bikes to travel as well. Next slide, please. So we start this treatment starting on the north side at 4th Street. You can see as we come in from the north side down San Benito, when we get to 4th Street, that we will continue to have the southbound left turn pocket and the southbound right turn pocket, because those are going to be the heavier demands still, people getting onto 4th Street. And then the southbound through lane, we transition across the intersection to start the sort of the center one-way lane commencing at 4th Street and then continuing southbound. Initially, we share the bikes, and then we get the bikes to start in their own bike lane. And then you can see where we see green space here. We call that a buffer area. And what we could do in this buffer area is basically two-folded, right? Number one is to create some side distance, and number two is to help with parking maneuvers, and number three is to protect, the parked cars, or if we have an outside space, a parklet or an outdoor dining or a shopping area, that we have some protection because people are going to be standing in that roadway space. In the layout, you will see an orange hatch. Now, the orange hatch shows the potential for where we could have a parklet. We do show parking spaces in those parklets. So if a restaurant decide not to opt to use the street for a parklet, we can still park cars in that parklet space. By all means, or by no means are this restricted, but it shows, all we did there was show an approximate area in front of a facility where there could be the need to have outdoor space. So right now it's just restaurants that we've identified. So as we continue south, you will see that the vehicles travel southbound. Sorry, is there a question? Nothing, okay. So once we get
I do have a question, if I may.
Sure, yep, go for it.
I'm just noticing this now in front of the apartment block. Why is it loading zone with bollards? I don't see that anywhere else.
I hope Danny can help me out, but I believe that there was a land use that's going to be located as part of this mixed-use development where there is a drop-off required.
Yeah, there's going to be a loading zone in that area.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
What was that, Danny?
There's a designed loading zone in that area.
I'm sorry, I can barely hear you.
Moving closer.
There's going to be a loading zone in that area.
And is that the only area that we're having a loading zone like this?
Along San Benito Street, that loading zone is going to be part of the 400 block project.
Oh, so that's going to be like more of a permanent fixture?
Yes.
Correct. I think this is related to a specific use that would be located in the new development.
That's correct.
Okay. So and then the bollard would be there just to provide protection, right? So that and these would not be big trucks that come in, but that would where they would be entering and then do their drop off of parcels and then leave.
Well, I don't know if I like that. I'll be honest with you guys. I think, how are they accessing it now? They're going through the alley, right? They're not able to load and drop off there. And I think we want to really just keep it nice, aesthetically pleasing, and pedestrian friendly. And I don't want to see a loading zone right there. And I'll be honest, I just noticed this now, or else I would have brought it up earlier with the city manager. So I think they can continue to use the alley that they've been using to do their construction, because yeah, I just don't think it's very aesthetically pleasing to have a loading zone right there. We want to be more inviting and open and warm. So that's my two cents on that. Thank you.
I would agree with you on that too, Mr. Resendez.
The only point that I would make is that the loading zone is part of that development's conditions of approval. However, if you'd like for us to look at it, we can take a look at it.
Can continue loading in the back like they have been. The street's been closed the whole time. There's no need to accommodate them. We want to accommodate our public right now.
Absolutely right. We need parking for our public.
I don't agree. I don't agree. That's a set condition on that development. There was extensive discussion by the way, by the planning commission. And I think during the appeal process, the mayor's appeal process, that was kind of a thing that we decided we had to have right there. So again, what's your objection? It's for the betterment of the community that's gonna live there and all the businesses downtown, that they're able to receive their packages in a safe way out of the traffic's
They can do that on the side streets as they do now. I think the parking, we need as much of the parking as we can get in these areas. So we don't want to lose any more. There's no reason to have a loading zone on that area there.
Okay.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, what I would hope, once the presentation is done, that if you like everything else, after this part, that we would request that you would accept the design, but know that staff would work with the developers and the owners of the 400 block to see if we can have that removed and accommodate the parking or the deliveries in the back.
Absolutely. And the only reason I interjected is because I just noticed it, and then Mr. Frederick did ask for comments. So I apologize, but thank you.
Yep, absolutely no problem. So we'll please ask questions on each block because there are nuances. So you know, those are great and fair questions. And it's easy to, you know, we can just convert these into parking spaces. So it's not a major change, right? So what I do want to talk about here a little bit is also the mid-block crossing, right? And you will see this come up on some of the other blocks. Now, this one is sort of unique because there's no alleyway, you know, on the west side. And what needs to happen is, and it's great, mid-block crossings are great because they provide better pedestrian connection, you know, and it just creates a pedestrian-friendly environment. The only challenge here is that, you know, a pedestrian, if they cross and they start on the existing sidewalk, you know, they need to sort of walk in between where the green areas are until they sort of get to the travel lane. And then there will need to be you know, there will be a limit line there, and then probably in the design you need to accommodate ADA, so there would be truncated domes and a couple of other things like that. So there's going to be some in the design of this, a couple of changes that need to be made to the actual street to accommodate, you know, pedestrian crosswalks, and you know, and then because also here it's easier, pedestrian walks to the line or watch for a car. If there's no car, you know, they can cross, or a bike. So that gets easy. When we get to the next blocks with the alleys, it gets a little bit more complicated. So we'll get through those as well. You will also see as we get closer to Fifth Street, where the vehicles will stop, that there's a bit of green space at the end of it. And the reason for that is we're going to show you we need that, again, just to sort of create a little bit of buffer space, number one. And number two is also, remember, if you back into your space, you need to actually go drive past the space, and then you're going to back in. And I have a little diagram that I'll show to you in a bit. So we show these buffer zones and the green zones where the crosswalks are, and then also at the beginning and the end of each street block. Next slide, please.
Hey, before you go on, can I ask you a quick question? I'm sorry.
Sure.
That space between the green there, it's not wide enough for a car. Will that be able to be used for motorcycles?
Is that in between? So where the
last
one? Yes, we can actually do motorcycles. Yes, we can definitely do a motorcycle parking there. That's a good suggestion.
That way we're not losing any space. So that's great.
Yep.
Thank you.
I would just want to make sure that we do it so we don't block side distance, right? That's all. But especially in the beginning of the block, I think that will be adequate. I wouldn't want to do it here where the crosswalks are, mid-block, but we could just do past it. We can again do my motorcycle space. Yep. You can add that in. Next slide, please. So this shows the block from 5th to 6th Street, right? And what we have here is, you can see we stop at 5th Street and then we go across, right? So we'll need to change some of the striping on the cross street at 5th Street. So you will continue to have an always stop here, and people can go through or only make a left. So will be some signs restricting people making turns that actually go north, right, on either of the approaches on 5th Street. So once we get, so the tricky portion here is that once we get to the alleyways, right? So at Wens Alley, cars can currently, and especially delivery trucks and also trash collection, right, will come down San Benito, and they either make a left or a right. So it's a one-way. Wens has a one-way towards the east and a one-way towards the west to the top of your screen. So we do have conflict here between the pedestrians and vehicles if they make the turn. So currently a pedestrian would wait on the sidewalk, and if a vehicle wants to turn in, you know, that pedestrian would either step aside remain on the sidewalk, or the vehicle could allow them just to cross all the way before they turn in. You can see that we do have turning templates that we show here as part of the striping to allow the trucks to turn. But now, with pushing the limit line into the crosswalk a little bit, then now the pedestrian is actually standing sort of there in the almost where the travel lane is, and the pedestrian, if there's a vehicle coming, the vehicle needs to allow the pedestrian to cross. So the only thing is now pedestrians may be confused and thinking, well, should I go back to the sidewalk or should I actually cross? And we need to if we're going to retain the crosswalk here and have the limit lines at the lane line where the pedestrian crosses the traffic, there needs to be some clear messaging. With the alleyways, this is a situation that I don't think people are very used to. So we may consider not having the mid-block crossings at those locations. Then we also do see here where we've allocated lots of outdoor space, for the restaurants, where the orange is shown, and then parking, having diagonal back in. We do retain access outside. I think there's a bank as well, so there's a left turn out that we retain as well. Any questions on this block layout?
Yeah, I'm not really clear what you're saying about the alleys. Sorry. What is the problem there? That essentially it's an open driveway and people are going to be driving either way. Can we just put like a stop sign there for the cars to stop?
Yes, we would definitely want to put a stop or a yield sign where the cars get to the crosswalk, right? The only thing, if a pedestrian is at the line, right, at the limit line where they need to cross, so the limit line is now not back at the crosswalk, right? It's in sort of in the middle. It's where the green ends.
Yes.
So then a vehicle is approaching and it's got its indicator on, right? So now I'm sort of in competition. So let's say the vehicle, I'm standing in the way of this vehicle, so I will have right of way, so I need to cross. It's just there need to be some education, right? We need to tell people, hey, this is how you need to manage the situation, because it's going to be slightly different, I think, than what they're used to. And then we'll have the same potential treatment here of where's our, what do we do with your ADA, truncated domes, and so somebody can cross there. That if a person that has a vision disability, we need to make sure that they can cross safely as well. Let's go to the next slide. Yep, sorry.
What do you propose for that, like people that are visually impaired?
So we're probably going to have a truncated dome run, obviously where the limit line is, and probably the truncated dome parallel to the crosswalk all the way down, right? So I will, and then there would be some sort of railing or fencing or a bollard, on the left-hand side. So what the law says is you need to let that person know as they walk when they cross, when they're basically leaving the pedestrian area and entering into a vehicle area. So it's like an L-shaped truncated dome that will front the crosswalk, where the turn is being made into the alleyway. So it gets really tricky in the design. So and we haven't. This is just a concept lab, but those are things that we need to be wary of when the design gets done.
Can you go back? I know you moved up a slide there.
Yeah.
Go back so we can talk about it. There you go. What if, did you look into restricting turning into the alleys from the street, but maybe having the alley go one way? So, for example, if somebody's going towards Johnny's from the other direction, they can cross that street through the alley, but not really turn into the alleys from the street.
Is that a vehicle or a pedestrian?
Vehicles.
Yep. So the vehicle. So what I do like about the way that the alleys work now is that a pedestrian will always see the vehicle, right? If I am standing at that limit line and a vehicle comes from behind me, I'm going to be a little scared if I'm sort of in the street, right? If I'm at the limit line. So if you make it a one-way east or a one-way west, you will always have a pedestrian that's caught up behind with a vehicle or a trash truck or a delivery truck behind him. The way this works is that he will always be facing a vehicle. I think that's both the vehicle and the pedestrian can make a more intelligent decision about what to do.
Okay.
Okay, next slide. So we have basically the same situation here as we have on the block between 5th and 6th. Again, an alleyway. I think here, yeah, so the alleyway goes, Brown's Alley goes down. I can't recall. I don't know if Brown's Alley comes from the back. I don't know. I can't recall right now. But I think we only have the alleyway going to the bottom of the page, right? So going westbound. Nothing new in this diagram. So next slide, please. So this is our last block, and so we retain the driveways for the gas station. So we allow vehicles to get out. We would prefer if they only make left turns out, but of course vehicles can still go into the garage, to the gas station from San Benito Street. But you can see where we've created a protection area as well. We still have the bike lane, the travel lane. We still have the swope alley, where cars make a right up the alleyway. And, we still have this ride out as well next to the AJ Sushi place. At this location, we hit South Street, and there's a signal there, right? So using that existing signal to the best of our ability, and it's not going to be a huge change, just some signal face and timing modifications. We recommend that we, having parking on both sides sort of end at this location, and further south we only have it on one location. So it's on the east side of the street going south. Sorry, on the west side. Here we and the other thing is this is where the cross section also goes only to 50 feet. So we actually don't have sufficient width to have parking on both sides. And this is where we then have two-way traffic, and then the traffic going northbound will basically split here at South Side and either go towards Monterey or to East Street. Next block down. So we continue the treatment of the diagonal spaces up to sort of the end of where the businesses and the restaurants are, and then we transition back to the typical two-way flow that we have until we then get to Hawkins Street. It's just some striping changes, and then the bikes go back to their class 3s as they are shown currently. Next slide, please. So the big question here is back-in angle parking, and we had a couple of pros and cons that I've listed here. I'm going to walk you through them, but I do want you to look at this blue diagram on the side, and this is really how back-in parking works, right? If you see an open space, right, you actually need to stop before the space, right, and put your indicator on and make sure that the car behind you stops. And then you sort of got to move forward, but then the car behind you should not move forward as well. But they should know, and that will happen through education, right, that they should wait where they are because you need to back in. So you stop at 1, the car behind you stops, you go to 2, and then you're back in to position number 3. That is if you don't do this, if you actually drive past the parking space, right, and there's cars behind you, they will block you from getting into the space. So that's a fairly substantial element of success of back-in angle parking. Otherwise, you're not going to find a parking spot. So the pros of back-in angle parking is, it's easier than parallel parking. And then can fit more spaces per linear foot. I'm going to show you a summary of how many more spaces we actually get along the street later on. The rear of the vehicle faces the sidewalk, so it's easier to load goods and and shopping bags into your trunk and the back of your car. Obviously pulling out is so much nicer and easier, and especially for pedestrians and bicycles and cars, because you can actually see what's happening, with diagonal. Otherwise, quite often, you sort of rely on a gap and you back out, and because people drive slow, they will allow you to pull out and wait for you. And then one of probably the biggest benefits is the increase for bicycles, right? Because bicycles are just a big problem with diagonal front-end parking spaces. The constraints, with back-in angled parking is that is actually, if you're not used to it, backing up between the marked lines is not easy. And I'm going to show you a picture here in a minute of a real case, and just look a little bit at the cars, right? So that's something that you need to get familiar with, and and especially if it's empty, right? So if there's no cars on each side of you, you got to find those stripes and do it. And a lot of cars nowadays have a backup camera and all sorts of nice side view mirrors, and you can do it, but you need to go exercise it. One thing that is bad is if there's a lot of idling cars, that the fumes from the vehicles is actually now fronting onto the sidewalk where there are pedestrians instead of into the street. And then it's a change, right? It's not widely accepted, and it may cause confusion, and that, and people will complain, right? One element that we looked at, people in our research, is that some people say, well, you should provide wheel stops because cars may back up too much and they may block the sidewalk, or, and you'll see that as well. But the problem with wheel stops are that they may also be seen as a tripping hazard. If you have at night, if people get out of their car and there's not the vehicle space next to your car is vacant, people can trip and fall over them. We have not seen applications in California that have wheel stops, right? So, we're not recommending to put these wheel stops in. When we do the design, we just got to make sure that as cars back into these spaces, I think one needs to get used, because I think people are probably going to back up until the back wheel touches the curb. Or if you have a backup camera in your car, obviously you can see the curb, and then you will know when to stop. For one element here is this is a progressive move in making a big change in how people use parking, right? So I do believe that there should be outreach, and probably on a Saturday or sometime over the weekend, you should maybe do a demonstration project and say, hey, people can try this out. We're busy striping it. Let's see if you can back into parking, and you put some A-bells down, and just make it a fun morning business, the downtown business, bring a few things along, and have something to just get the community there so they can try it out. It is a big change. What we find is in the older people have difficulty in making this maneuver. So just be warned. We're a democratic society, so my philosophy is always half the people will complain and the other half will be happy, right? So just be wary about that reaching out and telling people it's not coming, and helping them understand how it works and what they should do. Next slide. So at the ends of the streets, or where our streets are, or where the crosswalks are, I think I said earlier, you need to move sort of, if this last space is available and you need to occupy it, is that the car may need to, have space to actually back up, into that space. So this also shows a turning template of how a vehicle would then actually back into the actual space that's available. Next slide. So this is an example. It's in Seattle, Washington, East Madison Street. They only did this one block. Also back in parking, you can see here how there's like a minivan there somewhere in the middle, that you can see the backside of the minivan is actually a little bit over the sidewalk. But in general, I think many of the other cars are parked before the wheel hit the back end of the curb. You can also see how some of these cars are not perfectly parked between the stripes, right? So there is some of it will be challenging for some road users. Next slide. And this is just a street view. So it does work. People use it. This is evidence that, you know, we can actually do it, and people they get used to it and they do park this way. Next slide. So this is another example. This one is in Bakersfield on 18th Street. What they decided to do, I think they also had a very wide roadway, decided to keep one way parallel and do the other one back in diagonal parking. Next slide, please. So we did a calculation of parking spaces. So the existing parking spaces along the street is about 100, it is 106 spaces here at the bottom. We counted every block. If we stripe all the spaces, now this excludes that loading zone. So with the loading zone, we'll get more. We get 143 spaces. Now this excludes any parklets. If all the parklets that we've shown you are taken up, we will still have a surplus of 4 spaces. So basically, if all the parklets are taken up, we will have 110 spaces, parking spaces along the area that we're showing the change in. So we will still have more spaces than what we have now on the street. This is the last of my slides. You know, that's, yeah, so I think open for discussion and questions.
Perfect, thank you. You know, something you missed there with the 20-foot parking spaces, they can fit the trucks finally. Everybody that has the big trucks in our community will fit right on in there.
Yeah, and Mayor and Council, just remember we do have the reverse angle parking at the high school. When that happened, we do have the signage already made up, so we can make more. Plus, we've done a video educating everybody, so we're used to it. So hopefully that will help a little bit.
Thank the high school. They did a good job with that, and it was a little controversial at the beginning, but they worked through it, they stuck with it, and they proved the concept.
Can I say something about that?
Go ahead.
Since I work at the high school, yeah, it's an extreme challenge to back in, even if you do have a big truck. I don't care how long the spaces are. The way the signage is put up, if you have a big truck, you hit the signs and you bend them. We've had a few vehicles who have backed into trees. We still have vehicles who do not know how to back in, so they pull in. So there's gonna be, yeah, there's gonna be a big learning curve on this one. I suggest we don't put any parking downtown and let people walk. I'm sorry, it's just, in this town, the back-end angle parking in front of the high school, it's hilarious. It's fun. I'll tell you, I've been trying, I've been practicing. I still can't do it. So I use a parking lot.
Yeah.
But I do have one other question. And on a serious note, we're looking at this, and as much as this is beautiful, have we done a traffic study of where all the southbound traffic or northbound traffic is going to go, and on the side streets? And have we looked at that, what it's going to cost?
We're doing that now as part of this.
You're doing that now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we asked Kimberly Horn to focus on San Benito Street first, because we needed to get this part done as quick as possible so we can do the parklets. And to add with the diagonal parking, the number of streets are going to stay the same, where you can do your traditional pull-in parking.
I'd like to add, please, Mr. Mayor, that the one plus is the canneries open up Sally Street now. So they'll go use Sally instead of East. I don't care that they're in the backyard of my backyard, but that's a little narrow street for all that traffic. But now with the cannery gone, that should relieve that northbound traffic on East and maybe Monterey as well. I really prefer they use Sally through the cannery so that they're not just ripping through the residential zone. Monterey Street's beautiful. I drove through there tonight. I go, man, it's so beautiful. I'm sure it gets a little bit more speeding because there's no bumps. So the good news is we have Sally Street for northbound till next cannery season.
To add to that problem on Sally Street, we do have a lot of people speeding through there, a lot of complaints. Can we take down the can't see you guys here. The PowerPoint, the presentation.
Oh.
There you go. Thank you.
I do have a question, Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Go ahead, sir.
In regards to the traffic study, so I did read it in the report that they were going to do the traffic study, but are you actually doing that now, or are you going to wait until it opens up? Because I think people, the traffic's already impacted because the road is closed. So I guess my concern would be that if you want to get an accurate reading, we would wait until the traffic opens up one way to do the traffic study.
Frederick, you can
Am I
go ahead
off
and
on my
speak to
thought
that.
process with that? Sure.
Frederick, did you hear me? You can speak to that.
Yeah. So yes. So the traffic study that we're doing is we're using some traffic counts from before COVID, right? Because we think a lot of that's going to go back. When we get back to the new normal, we could get volumes close to that. That's the conditions we're busy analyzing. Yeah. So we should have a report ready for you at the next meeting.
So it's not an actual new traffic study right now?
No.
I'm just looking at old data.
Yep.
Got it. Okay, thanks for clarifying that.
I have one more question for Danny. Danny, do you know the speed limit, what the speed limit will be?
The speed limit currently, I believe, is 25 miles an
Well,
hour.
yeah, but what's it gonna be? We talked about slowing it down.
If you'd like to slow it down, it's the council's direction.
I would recommend 20 on my block and 15 downtown.
Okay.
If you put it there, maybe they'll do 25.
Yeah.
You're gonna need to lower it a little, I think, because now they go like 30, 35.
Right.
35. Yeah, so I think you'll lower it and maybe we'll hit somewhere in the middle there.
Okay. Yeah, if that's the direction of the council,
That's my opinion.
Okay.
That's just my opinion.
Thank you.
Thank you, Danny.
Yeah, we would ask that when you make your whoever makes a motion, that they do make the motion to include the speed limit.
Do we need a question on that? Because I do agree it needs to be slower, but do we need to justify that, or is this under special circumstances that we can create the speed limit?
Well, I believe we're going to be putting stop signs at all intersections. So, Frederick, would you speak to that also in terms of justification?
Yeah, so we're going to be putting these stop signs, basically everywhere, right? So, and then I think we will want to post a speed limit of 15 miles an hour, so of course we still need to, as the city does their speed surveys to look at speed limits, then obviously the city needs to then apply the guidelines, to see if the 15 is still warranted. But with the stop signs in the short blocks, I doubt if you're going to go much faster, even if there's no traffic, if you will go faster than 20, 25 miles an hour on the short blocks.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay. Do we have any other questions, or do we have any speakers?
We do have a couple speakers. Peter Lago. Go ahead, Peter.
I always forget I have to unmute this thing. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so Brett Miller, myself, and a few other business owners got together. We discussed exactly what you guys have discussed. We had a few questions and a few talking points. One of them was, if we build these parklets and let's say somebody accidentally knocks their car into drive and it rolls into one of these parklets, the parklet can't be expected to itself absorb the impact of, say, a vehicle like my own, a Ford F-350 that weighs 10,000 pounds. So we were in favor of losing the K-rails, and we were hoping that we could find a contractor, as they have in Las Vegas and other metropolitan areas, where they create these barriers out of planters, half concrete, half dirt, and all pretty, of which can absorb the impact of a vehicle at 45 miles an hour and stop it cold, even one the size of my own. So just wanted to put that out there. If you guys need any, I had sent some pictures of examples to the city council, to Brett Miller, and to a couple construction friends that are working on this project. And that would just be my suggestion alone, that if we create these barriers to stop vehicles from going into the parklets, that we do so using some sort of a planter which can absorb this impact.
Thank you.
Next, we have Michelle Perry. Michelle, go ahead.
Michelle, you're on mute.
Hear me?
Yep.
Go ahead.
Okay, so, yeah, about the parklets, we were talking as businesses about, the loading zone is actually not just for trucks. It would be considered for Ubers, Lyfts, and also, potential buses of people that are touring the wineries and wanting to come downtown and be dropped off. It'd be kind of cool to have them have a place to be dropped off and be able to visit right downtown. Another thing that I don't think you guys have addressed yet has to do with the K-rails. If we could do something more aesthetically pretty, that would be strong, that would be protective and strong and more commercial. I think it would be really cool to do something like that and just make it look aesthetically really beautiful downtown. Thank you.
Yeah, you're correct. It is not an exclusive loading zone. It's a public loading zone.
Are the K-rails not going away? Am I misunderstanding? The K-rails are being replaced with some planters with the ability to stop cars?
The current use of the K-rails, how we have it shutting down the road would go away, but there has been strong suggestions that the parklets be surrounded by K-rail. So I think some of the businesses have expressed to me their dislike for the lack of beautification that the K-rail have, and have strongly suggested the planter boxes, which in looking at it, would be, like Peter Lago just said, would be more of a crushable barrier. So if they impact to the, if somebody was in the parklet and somebody crashed into it, you would have more of a forgiving device. So it's a little bit softer impact than a jolt.
Aesthetically, the K-rails are terrible. Michelle's right. And Peter's right, but I just want people to be safe. So if you have that planter that withstands that 40, 45 mile an hour, because geez, it was just a couple weeks ago, I was telling you, San Jose or somewhere, they ran over some people eating there, went right through the barrier, so we don't want that. But yeah, the K-rails are definitely not attractive. I don't like them, but I understand the purpose too. So whatever we can do to make it good, like Peter said, then that would be better.
There's a lot of ideas out there. Those ballers that are look like planters. There's just a lot of different ways. So many people are doing it now. There's a lot of ways out there that make it safe and make it look more open and of course more beautiful. The K-rails were temporary to get this thing, everybody safe, because as you pointed out, Peter pointed out too, somebody can drive through pretty quick and we have a problem. So some safety feature would have to be that can withstand a car going at a higher speed. So that we can get that figured out. Any other speakers, any other questions?
We have one more speaker, Elias Salinas.
Good evening. I have a couple of comments. Can we put up the slide back up again? Is that possible on between the 4th and 5th with regards to the load zone? I have a question on that. In the meantime, I'd like to know how much this is costing the city to do this review. And I want to confirm that this project that we're talking about, the parklets and the one-way, is not going to be for a temporary, but this is what we're looking at for permanent. And not because because it started off as trying to help a few of the commercial restaurant businesses. So I want to make sure that this is going to be something permanent and not putting a lot of time and a lot of effort and a lot of money into it. You're putting up the screen. With regards to the lights at the crosswalks, I know it's kind of temporary, but I know that they have those lights that, and the crosswalks that beep, and the lights that flash for the cars to stop. I know we have it on 4th Street. Also, I know that you have a parklet for Mars Hill. It's my understanding Mars Hill is closing, and it's not gonna be opening back up as any type of an eatery. It's gonna be sectioned off other individual businesses, so maybe we need to take a look at that. And then with regards to the loading zone, number one, I would like to remind the mayor that you must refrain from making any comments on the 400 block because this is a conflict of interest. So you've already made a comment and you should have recused yourself with regards to that. I think it's a great idea. There's no reason for it to be taken down. There's no reason for it to be temporary. Obviously, it's not temporary because, as Michelle brought up, that it's because of, for the Uber and the Lyft, and also for parking for buses. I think it's a great idea, and I think that what's going on with trying to just take it off and say, no, it's a bad idea and it doesn't look good or whatever. Obviously, they've spent a lot of time with the city's spending a lot of money on this project, and there's a lot behind it. I think you need to go forward with this project, and if you're gonna be specific on the 400 block, as I said before, it's a conflict of interest on the mayor's part. He knows it, and he should refrain from any more further comments on this specific project just when it comes to the 400 block. Thank you.
Mayor, if you don't mind. So the parklet program is to be a permanent program. We've always stated that the parklet program is not a solution to COVID. It was a design that we had for a future for Hollister. For the parklet on front of Mars Hill, as Frederick said, the orange areas are just what it would look like if those restaurants actually decide to have parklets. So just kind of give a vision. If they don't do a parklet, that's why we needed the parking lines underneath them to see where the parking would be. Thank you, Mayor.
Sorry, you finished?
Yes, sorry.
I remind the speaker, this is a project on the streets. It's not a issue, as she's pointing out, a conflict of interest, and the city attorney could give his opinion on that if you'd like. Hey, we take the slide off again.
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, I would actually need to sit and talk with you about what property is being referred to and where it is and what the different factors are involved to give you a fuller explanation as to whether or not there's a conflict. I will say, as I always say, anytime the possibility of a conflict comes up, if anyone thinks that, anyone being a member of the council thinks that he or she has a conflict, then usually it's advisable to recuse yourself. But for a fuller analysis, we would need to sit and talk about that and go over the specifics of it.
Go ahead, any of the questions, comments?
I have quite a few.
Go ahead.
One short comment. I just want to thank Brett.
Go ahead.
I just want to thank Brett for going downtown and meeting with the businesses, and I appreciate that. And I'm glad it was between you and the business owners, and you brought it forward to the whole council. I really prefer it that way, and I'm really glad to get the report. And I get the feeling that downtown's pretty much a go on it. Haven't received any calls. We haven't had too many speakers. So you're pretty comfortable that the downtown businesses are fairly happy with this plan?
With the businesses that we met with, it seems like it's been very, very positive. The big thing that I think everybody really likes the idea is the bicycle lane downtown.
I like that.
So,
I wish it was on my block too, but we got a wide street there. I never get anything. No. Great idea with that parking to do the bikes. The bikes are an issue, and it's not just the pathway. Police department, hopefully we'll be monitoring the bikes downtown as we do the parklets, because we know what's going on. And it's just happening recently again. I got another call from Frankie. So, bicycles, please, stay in your lane.
If public comment is still open, I think we have one more speaker.
Go ahead.
Kathina Setzo. Go ahead, Kathina.
Hi, this is Kathina. Thank you so much. I just wanted to say that really appreciate you wanting to help the small businesses during this pandemic. It's reassuring to see that during this difficult time for all of us, that there could be something very positive to encourage us all. I really want to say thank you for all the hard work that the county and city and the chamber have been coming together and collaborating to work and to launch this beautiful parklet setting for our community in downtown. My favorite stories from some of my customers are about how they loved getting together when the downtown was thriving. Folks even got dressed up when it rained so they can visit with each other and enjoy getting together. So I really hope that they can see the downtown revitalized and that their devotion to our small businesses were all worth it. It will be wonderful to have more joyful stories created with young children so they have memories of the good times with their family and friends. So I think the new parklets with the smart cement planters that you guys were talking about, where it's safe with the concrete on the bottom and then planters being a part of it on top, will have a lot of potential. It could also showcase like local produce in the planters and plants, like olive plants and many other great layers, adding another layer of our rich agricultural heritage. So thank you again for taking the time to consider building a fresh and family-friendly downtown. That's great.
Awesome. Thank you, Kathina.
Was that it of the speakers?
There are no more speakers.
Okay, any other questions, comments from council?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay, as far as the crosswalks go, Brett, maybe you can shed some light on this. What was the reason that we put those crosswalks in the middle of the street? Was it because of like a certain requirement that we had to make?
I'm going to have Danny
Sorry.
answer that because that was
Yeah,
before
that was
me.
just part of concept that was included with the San Benito Street corridor study. And when they came through, they painted it on the street so we can have a visual of that effect, and included those mid-block crossings.
Yeah, so if council wants to get rid of those mid-blocks, that is fine by us. I would actually say our risk pool would probably appreciate getting rid of the mid-blocks because there's been a trend to more accidents in the mid-block crosswalks. So that's fine by staff if you want to get rid of them.
Yeah, I think, wouldn't it be easier just to get rid of them? I just want to make sure that we're not violating any type of ADA regulation or anything, but I think it would make more sense just to get rid of them so that we can, we're going to have stop signs at every corner that people can cross at those, they can walk down there and just cross at the street, right?
What some of the, if I can go back to talk about that, some of those blocks are pretty long. And I don't know if that would be a good idea to get rid of the ability to cross in the middle of that block. If you look at the, even from 5th to 6th Street, for example, if you got rid of that area, that would be a pretty long block. And again, from 6th to 7th, it's a pretty long block. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend getting rid of those. What I would do is bulb them out with paint and put some sort of lighting so people are crossing. And again, it's another way to keep people from driving too fast through that area.
Right. Yeah, I just want to add a little bit because somebody has said something about jaywalking. The thing with the jaywalking, if you don't have something like that, you're putting that, if for some reason a pedestrian gets injured, that puts that liability on that pedestrian that jaywalked. So it's not the city.
We can evaluate it and bring it back as part of the design if you'd like.
I think I would disagree with you, Mr. Mayor. I think if we were to get rid of the crosswalks and we would just put stop signs there, that should be sufficient enough, and just not encourage people to cross there. I think they should walk down to the very end of the street and use the crosswalks that are designated. If there's no other requirements, that would be my suggestion. So maybe we could look into that. The other thing is, I'm pretty much in favor of the parking, the backing up parking. I think when the high school did it, it was a little controversial, but I think mostly it was because people were not used to it. And then I remember something happened with the striping job, the paint like disappeared or something, and they were really frustrated about that. But I like the ideas that Frederick said about like, you know, like a little media campaign about showing how to use it and stuff. And I think if we can put some strong messaging behind it and make it fun, of course, not everybody's going to be happy. Like we know that at this point, right? Sitting up here, but I'm pretty in favor of that. I already asked about the traffic study. Oh, I am very much in favor of slowing down the traffic. I think Councilmember Lenore said 15 and 20 downtown. I think that's a great idea. I was wondering about, I don't even know what a K-rail is. Are those white and orange things? Those are the K-rails?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, they are atrocious. I do not like them. I think, yeah, if we can get some add-ons like the speakers had said, and maybe even allow for the business owner to potentially pay for that if they choose to. But I think it needs to be consistent as well. I really don't like those K-rails, and it's not very, very aesthetically pleasing. And then, yeah, I'm not in favor of taking away parking for a loading zone. That's a hard no for me. I'm sorry. They don't have a loading zone now, and they can continue to use the back alley for their construction. But I will say that, you know, in the future, I'm not like entirely opposed to this development and this project. When they're ready to go, if they want to get into the our parklet program, then they are more than inclined to do so, and they're very welcome to do so. Thank you. Those are my comments.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, anybody want to make a motion?
Well, I would just suggest that my motion includes, number one, the speeding and no loading zone. Or do we have to clarify all that right now, Brett, about the planters, everything that we talked about?
You do not need to clarify about the planters. We can do that further on item number 9. But you would need to make the motion on the speed. I would ask that maybe for the loading zone, we can probably work with the city engineer, and maybe we can do a temporary diagonal parking until that project's done. And like I say, and we can work with that group to find out maybe we can come up with an alternative in the future.
Yeah. I think that's a fair compromise, but I want to make sure that it happens. So if we can include no loading zone now until the project's done, we can revisit it. I think that's a nice compromise.
Yeah, the problem is you're changing a condition on a tentative map. So like I said, we can work on that after the fact, and that would be what I would recommend.
So do we have an agreement with them that they're going to get a loading zone there? Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Got it. Okay. All right. All right. So then I take that back. Thank you.
Yeah, we can work out the particulars of the loading zone.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Let's keep it as pedestrian friendly as we can. As much parking and biking and walking space as we can. For now, I would appreciate it. Thank you for that.
Okay.
I can go with that.
Was that your motion?
Shall I make a motion, Mayor?
I
Or is
didn't
that
hear.
Roland? That's Roland's motion?
That was Roland's motion.
No, I was just asking questions. But
Okay,
I
go
can make
ahead,
a
Carol.
motion.
So I'll make a motion to adopt resolution number 2020-208, but we're gonna make the amendment to include some studying of the area for the speed limit on the 800 block and then going north, proceeding to the 4th Street, the downtown parklet program. And we'll take a future look at the loading zone in front of the 400 block. Is that good?
Is that your
I will
motion?
certainly
That's
second
my
that.
motion. What's that? To say the speed? on $20, $20. Wow, I'm cheap. 20 miles an hour on the 800 block, 15 miles per hour from South Street north to 4th. Or whatever you guys deem appropriate. Maybe you want to go a little further, but yeah. That's my motion.
Okay, the motion, and is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Took a
Okay.
pandemic, but I got my way.
All right, we're gonna move to, you guys, anybody need a break?
I do not.
Okay, we'll move on then. We're almost done. Let's move to item F8.
So true.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor and Council. So on this item, what we are asking for is to accept the kind donation from the county of using $150,000 of their CARES Act money for our downtown parklet and beautification program for businesses to winterize their outdoor dining or to build parklets. We are also asking that we use the council to use $80,000 of the city's CARES Act money. So between the 150 and the 80,000, that would allow us to use 230,000 towards the parklet program. Plus, we're asking that you allow myself to accept any additional grants that can be used for the downtown area. An example would be that COG has reached out to me and said that they probably have grant money for bicycles for the downtown. So I ask for any questions.
Excellent. Any questions from council?
No.
Do we have any speakers?
We do have a speaker, Michelle Leonard. Michelle, go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi, this is Michelle Leonard with the San Benito County Chamber of Commerce and Visitors Center. We have been working with the San Benito County businesses and the City of Hollister and the County of San Benito, and we are really excited that the city and the county are working together, and we're so happy to be able to present this item to the City Council and the Mayor, because this is something that our business owners really need. Having the opportunity to have a redesigned downtown in the middle of a pandemic is the best case scenario out of a worst case scenario. So we are really excited that everybody's on the same page, giving the business owners the support that they desperately need right now. When they're at a limited capacity of operating, having some outdoor options is really beneficial to all of us in the community. And also it'll help mitigate the risk of spreading COVID-19 or having an increase in numbers. So we're really excited about this opportunity. So I just wanted to say thank you to everybody involved in the process, to staff, to the business owners, everybody getting on the same page. It's not too often that we're all always on the same side of the fight. So I'm really excited that everybody's on the same page with this. So anything that the Chamber of Commerce and Visitor Center can do to support this and keep it moving forward, we're all the way in. So thank you for considering this project and for all the forward momentum that it's making for our entire community. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Michelle.
Was there any other speakers?
There are no more speakers.
Is there a motion from council?
I make a motion that we accept resolution number 2020-209 as stated.
There's a motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion is second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 4-0. Move to item F9.
Thank you, Board of Supervisors.
Yes, I agree. Thank you, Board of Supervisors. So Noah, can you put up, so for our third item for the parklet program is actually the parklet program. Oh.
Hang on.
We're trying to get the program up. Whoops, wrong one.
I'm excited for this. We can just keep making it better.
Yeah. Okay, so like I said, this is for our downtown closure and the parklet program. So we went over this before when we got direction to go ahead and move forward with this program, that some of the program goals is to convert the unused or redundant street space into a people place. Emphasize the streets as venues for social interaction and vibrancy, well, after COVID's over. Support high quality streetscape experience and improve the day-to-day life of the street. Create venues for community gatherings, like I said, after COVID, events and celebrations. Increase safety for the people who walk, bike, and shop. And those are the main reasons. So we were asked to bring back some different designs, and every time we kind of landed back on the parklet on the left, and where we felt that we could have some different, some individuality is to go with this parklet front where you have nice lines, planter boxes, and where you see the red circle, you'll see kind of a metal frame. This is where the different businesses can change it out. They can use the metal framing, they can use plexiglass, they can continue to use wood, or if they want to, they can use maybe half wine barrels, corrugated metal roofing, whatever they would like. So here's like different examples, the half wine barrels, the picture in the middle, you can see the metal roofing, or on the right, the plexiglass, or if they have their own design to put in there. So for roofing, this was always the tough one for us. The earlier pictures kind of showed a curtain design where you can pull it back and forth for sun or shade. We know that there are some engineered designs out there for the arbors or the pergolas, or just recently after this was done, the design of actually using the corrugated metal roof over the top, which actually we do like that design, because when it rains, and it's going to rain here soon, that the people using the parklet will have something over their head. So we kind of talked about barriers real quick. Each parklet, I mean, there is a design standards for parklets for safety, the stop blocks, the bollards to show the driver that there's something up ahead. And in this example, you do see some different planter boxes. The ones we were kind of looking at, and actually what Peter Lago talked about, are more rectangle ones that you could probably put cement and then dirt on top, and then the plants. In fact, I'm hoping for some of the restaurants, we might use the Disneyland trick, and they have different plants that are fly resistant. So maybe that would help cut down on flies for eateries.
Sounds like fun.
So the parklet process, and I have staff ready to go if this third item is approved for tomorrow, to go like they have been, going business to business, finding out who wants to get signed up and how that we can help in any way possible. Is do the initial application, we'll work with their designs or the photos of where they want to be, help them understand the proof of insurances that they need, and help them with their encroachment permit, and then we'll get the installation and an inspection going as soon as possible. So the other thing that we're going to be asking for council on this resolution is asking for the funding for the parklets, and also the waiving of fees for anybody that wants to use this parklet in the first year of the program. And some of those fees that we're waiving is the application fee, the encroachment permit fee, the approximate building permit fee of about $400. And this is the one part that we really hope, with the help of the county, that the council will support. So we are recommending that any parklets that are less than or equal to or less than 15 linear feet down the sidewalk, that we would give those applicants $7,500 in funding. Anything greater than 15 linear feet, we would do it up to $15,000. Now, you'll see on this slide it says completed by November 15th. we would love to give everybody as much time as possible, but the county has given us the offer of the $150,000 of CARES Act funding, but they need us to spend it by November 15th. Because if we don't spend it, that only gives them about a month and a half to spend it, or they have to return it to the federal government. So we want to spend this as soon as possible. I will try to reassure the council and yourself, Mayor, that we have been meeting nonstop with businesses for over the 2-3 weeks and almost a month now. So like I said, we have staff ready to go to start helping them as much as possible to meet this deadline. So one of the big questions, everybody, is the responsibility of the parklets. It's going to be the responsibility of the person that has the parklet. They need to keep the parklets clean, the greenery healthy, the parklets free of pests, keeping the drainage area clean, adequately maintain all the surfaces of the parklet, keeping all the furniture clean, repair and replace the furniture in the parklet as needed, and securing furniture overnight when not in use. I just have up here the insurance requirement, which would be the general liability, holding naming the city in the as additional insured, and having workers' comp. Oops, sorry. So, and then, like I said, there will be a maintenance agreement. I don't need to go through that again. But any questions? I'm sorry I went through that kind of quick, but the main things that I want to sum up is that we are asking you to approve the program, approve the waiving of the fees. Oh, and the city staff and myself would like to ask council to allow us $15,000 in appropriation from the general fund to build the city's own parklet so that we can put it, we're trying to work on different areas that where we're going to put it, but one of the ideas would be to put it in front of vacant buildings or another area that we feel is best suited for it. So we can do it as for community events. We can, like maybe even like the parade stand, or we can allow the different community groups that we have to use it. I've seen mats or places where people, when COVID's over, that they can do maybe exercise programs out on it. We have numerous ideas to do.
Like maybe recreation?
Recreation ideas. We'll have probably something different every month, but something. One thing has been requested for future is once we're done with this initial go-around is to start looking at how to make downtown more bicycle friendly and pet friendly. And this could be a perfect spot to work with that. So any questions?
Thank you. Any questions? Do we have any speaker cards?
We do have a speaker, Peter Lago. Go ahead, Peter.
I wanted to thank Brett Miller for really taking the lead on organizing us, getting us together, and Peter Hernandez for working with him on organizing the meeting so that we could have a voice in this and give the logistics from the people who are trying to work their businesses through this and everything. I think it's a great idea. I hope that there's not a constriction to being able to have a rally hosted within this, but we've been reassured that it looks like it's going to be able to take place. So myself, and I can only really speak for myself, but I know that a consensus of other business owners all support this. We all have positive feelings about it. We feel like it's going to be good. I don't have a problem personally, to circle back on one of the issues that Roland Resendez had mentioned, which is mid-crosswalks in those alleys where we turn them into one-way are probably not all that necessary, because every block we're going to have stop signs and crosswalks. So I'm also in favor of losing the one there at Wentz Alley, because I could see it being a conflict of interest with pedestrian traffic. And just wanted to thank everybody involved again for working on this and for really thinking it out very cleverly and bringing some real good professionals on it to work on it. It seems like it's going to be a good thing. Of course, fingers crossed. We hope everybody learns how to back into a parking spot and that it all works out for everything downtown, for bicycle people. One last thing was the loading and unloading zones. Those are important to bars and restaurants because we do get a lot of deliveries, but at the same time, we also have a lot of people that would like to take a cab downtown, and we'd like to have those loading zones available so that people can take a cab or an Uber to and from these places, and that they're not too inaccessible for them to take, because those are incentives for people to come down and sort of go from restaurant to restaurant and bar to bar and everything without having to worry about getting a DUI on the way home. We do have a fair amount of our clientele that does do the responsible thing and take those bars. So I'm in favor of those loading zones. I don't think we'll lose too many parking spots. As Peter had mentioned, that we're over doubling our parking by giving it that angled parking. And once again, just wanted to thank everybody for looking at this in a professional light and actually asking us and counseling with us, and Brett really taking the lead on us with Peter Hernandez. The guys did a great job organizing us, putting us together, listening to us, and just wanted to thank everyone involved for that.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Any other speakers?
There are no more speakers.
Thank you. Brett, Peter made me think of one other thing here, and that is the reverse parking. You're seeing a lot of it in different areas of the different streets. Is that going to be allowed from here on out as we're starting to allow for reverse parking, so people don't get a ticket by parking on 5th Street or 6th Street, for an example, reverse?
What, I'm not sure your
It's not part of
question.
this conversation, but I just want to have that. Think about that. You can answer that some other time.
Yeah.
But it's just something before I forget about that comment.
Yeah, I think your question was, are we going to have different kind of parking throughout the city? I mean, San Benito Street would be the reverse, and then the numbered streets would still be the traditional. But
I know they'll be traditional, but what I'm saying is people are now starting to. More people are parking in reverse now that they have cameras in the back of their cars.
Oh, correct.
And I want to make sure if we're allowing reverse parking in one area, you're not going to be ticketed for doing it somewhere else, even though it's not reverse parking.
Yeah, I'm looking at the police chief. I believe that is, you're driving the wrong way when you do that, so that is.
Yeah, I don't think they can, Mr. Mayor, the way that the parking is, it's angled the opposite way.
That's the problem they do.
I'll let the police chief talk about that.
We'll have a conversation at some other time on that one. Okay. It's not agendized, so.
Never mind.
Just wanted to get that out there. All right. Any other questions or comments?
I do have a comment.
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo Mr. Lago's sentiment, and I just wanted to say simply thank you, Brett, and to the staff, and for everybody that reached out to the business owners. This is something that, that I really like to see, a partnership and a lot of support from the business owners and involvement. So I'm very excited. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I don't know if we ever say it enough. So, and as soon as we get it approved, hoping we get it approved, I'd like to see it get moving, just like you said. Thank you so much again.
I'll take this opportunity now to thank the entire City of Hollister staff. You didn't let me down. You never let me down. And I appreciate all of your innovative thinking and the fact that you're very dear to me, and I know how hard you work because I worked with you guys for some of you 20 years. So I want to thank you for your extra effort downtown. Brett took the lead. Good job. You've been working hard on it. I've been riding them every week. Don't think just because you don't see me out there that I'm not conveying to the city manager. But city staff, awesome, and I'll never forget it. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, Mayor, if I can. Peter Lago brought it up. Peter Hernandez has been very helpful helping us getting these meetings together, so I do want to thank him. And like Carol says, I really like to thank staff. They put some extra hours in to make sure this is popular and find out any issues that we have and been working through it. So I want to really thank them also.
And I would just like to, I would like to echo that. You guys are amazing. You work hard. You put up with us, which is hard work. And you guys are always there. Whenever I call, you answer the phone. Thank you to everybody, even little Miss Daisy there.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion on this item?
I make a motion that we accept Resolution 2020-210 as stated.
There's a motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Mayor.
Oh, go ahead, whatever.
There's a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries. Okay, let's move on to item G1, reports from city council members regarding their committees. Councilmember Lenore?
I think I'll defer to the next meeting if you don't mind. I wrapped up a couple of committees, the Water
No problem.
Resource and AAA, but I'll give a better report on the next meeting.
Absolutely. Vice Mayor Spencer?
I have nothing to report this meeting.
Thank you. Councilmember Resendez?
No committee meetings to report, Mr. Mayor.
I don't have any committees either. We will go to G2, informational reports from council members. Councilmember Lenore?
Informational meet, oh, you know what? Just give me 1 second. I'm sorry, Mayor. I just want to check really quick, my calendar really quick. As I stated, I had the last water, oh, this is the other things. No, no, I do not have any reports, any other reports.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Spencer?
I have a couple things that I just want to check up on. I've had some requests from some constituents, and I've talked to our city manager about it. Brett, how are we doing with the tumbleweed problem that we have on Prospect?
I will defer to our police chief as that's their weed abatement program.
That's fire.
Fire.
Right, I meant fire, sorry.
Well, I'm looking at the police chief, and he's looking.
I'm still, I'm still on the tickets for the parking.
Oh, they're big.
Hi, thank you. I'm Charlie Bedolla, again, your fire marshal. And on this part right here, initially we went and we did hit it through there. We did have them come through there on that. We haven't been told anything about it, so we haven't addressed it. But I mean, usually it would be Mike and his crew that would go and clean it up. We can get in touch and see what we can do to get that taken care of.
Could we, Charlie, because they're getting really big. I mean, some of them are like 6 feet tall and probably, 6 feet wide.
No, they are big, and we've seen them roll down and hit the cars and roll down the street. So Mike and his crew are usually good about it and going and retrieving them and getting them. So
okay, and I know I know that there's railroad tracks right there. Is that going to be a problem? Do we have to get a hold of Southern Pacific, Northern, whatever it is?
We do have to get creative with that, because we've been doing that and trying to get a hold of them, and it gets a little creative, but we'll see what we can do to get it
It's their responsibility.
But they don't always take care of it.
Okay, and I really do appreciate you guys checking on this. I mean, like I said, I drove by there the other day, and these things are huge, and
They are huge.
there's not one or two. They're everywhere, all that whole area.
They were, and then the development that's getting done over there, Hollister Farms, they ended
Yeah.
up they were getting big there, and they ended up taking care of all that. So we had our eyes on that also. So we'll go ahead and see what we can do to get this taken care of as ASAP.
Okay, thank you,
You
Charlie.
got it. Thank you.
And then the next thing I have that not for you, Charlie, I don't think, is the parking lot at the grocery outlet. Have we looked into that? Because it's getting really congested with traffic. People are using it as an alternative route to get to places.
Pardon?
I know a little bit about that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I met with Labor on this issue. We met with the previous city manager. I don't know if you were involved, but we were in talks with Mike Sicoli.
Yes.
And we were gonna see if Caltrans would let another driveway come through there on the Prospect, all the way to Nash, and I don't think we ever got an answer. They were gonna maybe try to see if we could bring that road out, and then they would cut off but it never went anywhere, so we were gonna ask Caltrans about that.
Yeah, we can ask them again.
I think we should look into it, because we kinda just stopped, we didn't.
Yeah, I know Caltrans has denied that in the past, but we can look
There
into it
was
again.
something that they thought they might be able to consider.
Okay,
Okay.
sure, we'll look at it.
Well, thank you for that,
Yeah, I
Carol.
remember, because we talked about it
Yeah.
with Mike.
Okay, yeah, and I would, please keep me abreast on that because it is bad. I won't even go into grocery outlet because I can't even get into the parking lot half the time. So.
It's good that it's busy. People
Well,
are
yeah,
there.
no, it's busy, but it's also a hazard with all the
And
traffic.
they're paying for all that traffic to come
Yes.
through their asphalt.
Yes. So, that's all I have.
That's it. Okay, thank you. Councilmember Resendez?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I do have a couple of things I wanted to bring up. Number one, there's a little boy who's in a wheelchair and he lives by Frank Clower Park. And it's my understanding that he wrote a letter to the city of Hollister requesting wheelchair accessible playground equipment at his home park. I would like for us to prioritize that and get him the equipment that he's requesting and for other children that need it. And just if we could just keep in mind, I think moving forward, developing parks, they should be inclusive to the entire community. I would really like that if we can work on that and make sure that we are inclusive with park building in general. Number one. Number two, the youth council, there's some children at the high school that have been contacting me and they want to meet for the youth council. And then I told them to contact Christine, and then Christine said that we were not allowing them to meet right now, that city council wasn't allowing to meet. So I wanted to ask the city council to reconsider that. I think it's perfectly safe for them to meet via Zoom, and there's a lot of interest. And the reason I'm asking you to reconsider is because I think some of these children need this for their college applications and whatnot, and that's not gonna, being in a pandemic is not gonna stop. They're still gonna go to school and they're still gonna need that experience. So I'd really like to give them the opportunity. I think there's 2 students that reached out to me that are pretty interested in doing that. So I hope that the council would consider allowing them to reconvene. Those are my two suggestions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and absolutely. Kids need, those programs are very positive. I want to let everyone know this week is Pink Out Week. Our students at the high school, ASB students, are doing some fundraisers. Mountain Mike's, part of the proceeds will go to their scholarship fund. That is from 12 to 8 on Thursday at Mountain Mike's. And on Friday, Domino's all day long. Part of the proceeds will go to their scholarship funds to students that have lost a loved one to breast cancer. Very important, a great group of kids, and we want to make sure we're supporting them and wear pink on Friday. Thank you. City Manager.
Yes, thank you. Now that we've approved all the parkwood items, I want to see if council is available. I would think it'd be almost like a 5-minute meeting or 10-minute meeting for a special meeting on the 21st, this Wednesday, maybe at like say 12:15. Like I said, to approve a contractor that staff, we've been going around trying to make sure somebody can meet our deadlines, and we would like the council to approve, to have a special meeting to approve that contractor. So like I said, I'm trying to see if you're available.
What time would you like to do that?
I was thinking, I know, Rowan, is that during your lunch break? I was thinking about 12:15.
It is my lunch break, and if it's a 5-minute meeting, I can certainly make it.
Yeah, it'd probably be roll call, pledge of allegiance, and we'll do a quick presentation, like 1-minute spiel, and then vote is what we're thinking of.
Sure thing.
Yeah, it's more of an emergency thing, so yeah, we'll explain that. Sure.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Is that it? City Attorney?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No statement.
Chief?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Nothing to report.
City Clerk?
Nothing to report.
Thank you. HIJK, there is no business. Is there a motion to adjourn? Is there a second?
Second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, everyone, and good night.
Good night, everyone.